Chapter 1560. This is outrageous. Meng Wu Yue grit his teeth, his heart filled with hatred as he angrily slapped the armrest of his chair. He thought that Yang Kai and Xia Ningqiang were so engrossed in their love that they had forgotten the time. It had already been more than a month, yet the two of them still hadn't appeared, causing the masters of the three clans to wait here in boredom. Meng Wu Yue felt ashamed to face these guests. He had guarded Xia Ningqiang for so many years, teaching her with all his heart, and was Xia Ningqiang's only family. But now, as soon as Yang Kai returned, he had snatched his precious disciple away from him. Meng Wu Yue knew that this time he had truly snatched her away. In the future, in Xia Ningqiang's mind, he would likely have to take a back seat, causing him to feel a little sour. Amidst this sourness, there was also a hint of sweetness. His disciple had waited alone for 30 years, but she had not waited in vain. That little bastard Yang Kai had finally returned. This feeling was quite wonderful. Meng Wu Yue shook his head, his heart filled with mixed feelings. Down below, the several monster race great seniors and the demon general of the demon race stared at each other from a distance. The masters of the two races sat on opposite sides, their gazes clashing with each other, creating a subtle atmosphere that seemed to fill the air. Although the three clans had joined forces once 30 years ago, in order to compete for cultivation resources, there had been a lot of friction between the three clans. Among them, the friction between the monster race and the demon race was the most serious. Fortunately, the monster race great seniors and the demon general knew how to restrain themselves and did not take action personally, otherwise, the conflict would have definitely escalated. It was just the little brats below fighting, so it didn't really matter. However, not being able to see each other for so long was one thing, but now that they had come to Nine Heavens Holy Land together and had been waiting for more than a month in boredom, Meng Wu Yue felt that he was faintly unable to suppress the hostility between the masters of the two races. If it weren't for him, Ling Tai Shu, and Chu Ling Xiao, the three top human race Saint Realm masters, guarding this place, these wild fellows would likely have already started fighting. What a headache. That little bastard has fallen into the land of tenderness and doesn't care about the suffering of these old men. At this moment, Meng Wuya was cursing Yang Kai in his heart. What they feared had come true. It was unknown which great sage of the Yarrow clan or which devil general of the demon clan had lost their minds, but the people below were actually in an uproar. At first, there were only two people arguing, but the situation became more and more intense. All the great sages and devil generals spoke up to help their own people. The situation was a little chaotic. In the end, even Thunder Dragon Great Senior and Demon Commander Zhong Yuan were dragged into this mess. Thunder Dragon, this senior has been in retreat these past few years, but has not been able to find a suitable opportunity to verify these results. Today, why don't we use this precious place to exchange pointers? Zhong Yuan looked at Thunder Dragon Great Senior with a smile, his eyes filled with aggressive fighting intent. Good, it just so happens that this king has had some gains these past few years and was worried about not being able to find an opponent. I have long heard that Brother Zhong Yuan's profound heavenly seal is unparalleled and even Senior Meng suffered a loss against it. This king would like to experience it. Thunder Dragon smiled lightly, not showing any fear. Don't drag this old master into this. Meng Wuya suddenly became unhappy. After being hit by Demon Commander Zhong Yuan's profound heavenly seal, most of his cultivation had been sealed, forcing him to flee to the central capital to avoid disaster. This matter was the greatest shame of his life. Although Zhong Yuan had used the assistance of the spirit array at that time to defeat him, Meng Wuya was most unwilling to hear others mention this matter. Thunder Dragon Great Senior and Demon Commander Zhong Yuan had already begun fighting. The two of them didn't make any big movements, simply releasing their divine senses and silently colliding with one another. However, the danger of this kind of battle was far greater than that of a normal battle. If one wasn't careful, both sides would suffer heavy losses or even have their souls destroyed. Everyone in the hall wore dignified expressions as the previous noise gradually subsided. No one dared to disturb them anymore, all of them staring nervously at the masters of their respective races, lest some kind of accident occur. The divine senses of third-order saints swept across the entire hall, and any master who sensed this collision couldn't help showing a look of shock. The battle soon reached a white-hot level. Thunder Dragon and Zhong Yuan both went all out, but the result was still a draw, with only a slight difference in strength. However, the faces of the two masters gradually turned pale and fine sweat began oozing from their foreheads as their divine senses collided with one another, creating an extremely dangerous situation. Meng Wuya and the others wore dignified and ugly expressions. They couldn't intervene even if they wanted to and could only quietly wait for the result of the battle between Thunder Dragon and Zhong Yuan, but judging from the current situation, the best result would be for both sides to suffer heavy losses. Once this happened, the conflict between the two sides would likely escalate, which was not something the human race masters wanted to see. Where did Yang Kai go? Ling Tai-shu asked anxiously. Meng Wuya shook his head, indicating that he didn't know. He had gone to Xia Ningchang's secluded retreat a few days ago but had not found any trace of Yang Kai or his disciple. No one knew where they had gone. The situation isn't good. Soaring Heaven Sect Master Chu Ling Xiao frowned. Things developing like this was somewhat beyond his expectations. At that moment, a burst of hearty laughter suddenly came from outside the door. It's quite lively here, how come you've already started fighting? As soon as this voice fell, everyone saw a figure flash outside the door as Yang Kai and the black-veiled Xia Ningchang appeared together. Everyone's attention was attracted by this voice and when they looked up, their spirits couldn't help shaking. Many people had heard that Yang Kai had returned but hadn't believed it until they saw him in person. Meng Wuya, on the other hand, looked at Xia Ningchang suspiciously, suddenly having a very strange feeling. After not seeing him for more than a month, his disciple seemed to have changed a little, to the point where he felt like he was looking up at a towering mountain. Little martial nephew. A tender cry rang out as a beautiful figure flew out of the hall and landed directly in front of Yang Kai. She grinned as she looked him up and down, clicking her tongue as she spoke. After a while, she gently nodded and said, "Ian, after not seeing you for several dozen years, you've become more and more manly. Even martial aunt's heart is rippling." Yang Kai's face went black as he subconsciously glanced over at Xia Ningchang, awkwardly saying, "Martial aunt, can't you act a little more dignified?" Fei Yu martial aunt heard this and immediately rolled her eyes at Yang Kai, a flirtatious expression on her face. She had come here with Chu Ling Xiao. When she heard the news from Nine Heavens Holy Land that Yang Kai had returned, Chu Ling Xiao had immediately rushed over with the sect's 4 great elders. Now, as soon as they met, Fei Yu martial aunt was already acting like a playboy. Yang Kai couldn't help feeling warm. When he lived with his martial aunt Fei Yu on Soaring Heaven Sect's Qishou Peak, his martial aunt had always been like this, often lying on the ground after getting drunk, her clothes in disarray, revealing her naked body, not showing the slightest intention of avoiding Yang Kai. Feeling his martial aunt's enthusiasm again after several dozen years, Yang Kai suddenly felt as if he had been cut off from his previous life. "Martial aunt is still in her prime, I won't grow old." Fei Yu snorted before smiling. Tsangyan, Rimaru, and Fei Jian are all here, as well as martial ancestor. Saying so, she turned her gaze towards the main hall. Yang Kai gently nodded and stepped forward, first exchanging a few words with his Tsangyan martial aunt before arriving in front of Chu Ling Xiao and solemnly saying, "Disciple Yang Kai greets martial ancestor, sorry for making martial ancestor wait." Good, no need to be so polite." Chu Ling Xiao nodded happily, releasing his divine sense to sweep Yang Kai and discovering that, as Ling Tai-shu and the others had said, Yang Kai's current cultivation had reached an unfathomable level. Perceiving this, Chu Ling Xiao showed an even more amiable smile. "You're good, very good. Sure enough, you've carved out a new world for yourself. This old master is proud of you, and in the future, I'm afraid the important task of revitalizing the sect will be handed over to you. Martial ancestor is too kind, disciple still has many shortcomings and still needs martial ancestor and grandmaster's guidance." "Good boy," Chu Ling Xiao laughed happily, exchanging a glance with Ling Tai-shu, both of them greatly relieved. "Martial ancestor, please wait a moment, these two friends are a bit grumpy, disciple will help them put out the fire first." Yang Kai grinned before turning to look at Thunder Dragon Great Senior and Demon Commander Zhong Yuan, who were still fighting with their divine senses. "Be careful, don't hurt them," Ling Tai-shu quickly exhorted. "Don't worry, Grandmaster, I won't hurt them," Yang Kai said proudly, his divine sense bursting out and pouring into the void. A divine sense battle between two third-order saints. No one in the hall dared to interfere, but to Yang Kai, this thrilling divine sense battle was no different from a child's play. There seemed to be a hissing sound coming from the void as Thunder Dragon and Zhong Yuan both trembled, feeling their entangled divine senses being forcibly separated by a pair of invisible hands. This kind of strength made them feel a sense of powerlessness, unable to resist at all. Hong. A halo of light burst out in all directions as Lei Tong and Zhong Yuan both retreated a few steps, taking a deep breath as they stared towards Yang Kai in shock, their eyes filled with amazement. He had actually easily separated them from their opponents. Two friends, it's my fault for making you wait so long. I did encounter an accident which delayed me for so long, but there's no need for you to be so hostile as soon as you meet. Yang Kai looked at the two with a smile. Thunder Dragon took a deep breath, seemingly still unable to calm his mood, hesitating for a moment before cupping his fists and bowing, "Forgive my rudeness." Zhong Yuan was not a petty person, so when he heard Thunder Dragon say so, he immediately chuckled, "Many thanks, Yang Shengzhu, if we have offended you in any way, please forgive us. That's right, we all live under the same blue sky, there's no need to fight as soon as we meet." Yang Kai gently nodded, very satisfied with the attitude of these two. Seeing many people standing in place and staring at him strangely, Yang Kai stretched out his hand and gestured, "Sit down, there's no need to be polite. Today, I called you here because I have something to discuss with you." After learning that Yang Shengzhu had returned, this senior traveled day and night from the demon capital to the Holy Land, but I don't know why Yang Shengzhu has summoned us here today. The masters of the three clans have all gathered here, so presumably what Yang Shengzhu has to discuss is no trivial matter, right? Zhong Yuan asked casually, but his eyes revealed a deep sense of dread. When Yang Kai separated him from Thunder Dragon just now, although he did not feel much, Zhong Yuan knew that the current Yang Kai was not someone he could compare with. Chapter 1561. Did this little brat want to unify the entire Tongxian realm? Did he want the demon race and monster race to bow their heads? Thinking of this, Zhong Yuan's expression became even more dignified. It wasn't that he was narrow-minded, on the contrary, Zhong Yuan was a very heroic person. Most of the masters from the demon race and monster race were like this, but as the demon commander, he had no choice but to consider this aspect. Thunder Dragon also thought so. If this really was the case, even if the demon race and monster race joined forces, they wouldn't be able to resist and could only resign themselves to fate. Hearing this question, Yang Kai glanced at him thoughtfully and chuckled, "Demon Commander doesn't need to think too much, I won't be staying here for long this time, I'm afraid I'll be leaving soon." "Leaving soon?" Zhong Yuan was stunned, exchanging a glance with Thunder Dragon, both of them extremely surprised. Yang Kai actually didn't have any ambition. "Yes, the wonderful things in the Tongxian realm's territory made me forget to return, so I'm not going to stay here for long," Yang Kai chuckled. Thunder Dragon's eyes lit up as he quickly asked, "Is there something wonderful in the Tongxian realm's territory? If possible, can Yang Shengzhu tell us more about it?" The other masters from the three clans also craned their necks and looked towards Yang Kai, listening attentively. Tell me, this old master is also very curious," Chu Xiaoxiao smiled. Although he had heard a lot about the star field from Ling Taishu after coming here, most of this information was from Yang Kai and Ling Taishu. Since Ling Taishu had never seen it with his own eyes, there was always something missing. Now that Yang Kai was here in person, he naturally wanted to investigate. Since martial ancestor has given the order, disciple naturally won't disobey. Yang Kai chuckled and pondered for a moment before continuing, "There are indeed many wonderful things in the Tongxian realm's territory, many things we have never thought of before." Inside the hall, everyone listened attentively. Time passed slowly, but everyone listened with great interest. Their expressions gradually became more and more excited. The vastness of Star's territory amazed all of them, and the enchanting scenery and abundant cultivation resources in Star's territory made them yearn for it. Above the Saint Realm were the Saint King Realm, Origin Returning Realm, and Origin King Realm existences that made them blush with shame. They deeply understood the meaning of the phrase "frogs at the bottom of a well." According to Yang Kai, most of the cultivation stars in the star territory had extremely rich world energy auras, so saints weren't anything special there. Only those who had reached the origin returning realm could barely be considered masters, and only those who had reached the origin king realm could truly become master. Everyone's blood was burning and boiling. Their eyes flickered with a look of longing. They longed to have such a cultivation environment and abundant cultivation materials. They longed to advance further on their martial Tao and reach the legendary Saint King realm, origin returning realm, or even the origin king realm. Yang Kai didn't embellish his story and instead calmly explained his understanding of Star's territory and what he had seen and heard over the years. But this was enough. After he finished, everyone's mood fluctuated and they were unable to calm down for a long time. Yang Kai had seen all kinds of wonderful and magical things, but all of them were back on Tongxian realm, fighting for some of the resources that the cultivator in Star's territory didn't even want to enter their eyes, some even considered garbage. This discovery made everyone feel depressed, ashamed, and even deeply ashamed. Zhong Yuan and Thunder Dragon, who had been opposing each other tit-for-tat before, glanced at each other and smiled bitterly, suddenly feeling that their previous struggle had been very childish. Yen, the Star territory is so wonderful, this old master can't wait to see it. If this old master can experience this kind of wonder in his lifetime, this old master can die without regret. Chu Ling Xiao took a deep breath. Thunder Dragon and Zhong Yuan opened their mouths, seemingly wanting to say something, but in the end, no words came out. The hall was silent for a long time before Zhong Yuan sighed and asked with some interest, "May I ask why Yang Shengzhu has gathered all the masters from the 3 clans here this time?" Hearing this question, Thunder Dragon also quickly turned his eyes to Yang Kai curiously. Yang Kai responded with a smile, "I'm taking you to Star's territory." A single stone stirred up 1,000 ripples, causing everyone's body to shake violently as they stared towards Yang Kai with dull and excited eyes, none of them having expected him to say such a thing. It was undeniable that Yang Kai's previous descriptions had aroused everyone's yearning and curiosity towards Star's territory. They all wanted to see what Star's territory was like. But, how could Star's territory be so easy to enter? They didn't have the ability to break into Star's territory, so they could only stare blankly, envying Yang Kai's opportunities and admiring Yang Kai's courage and strength. But now, Yang Kai had thrown an olive branch to them. Everyone was stunned. "Of course, I won't force you. This is just a proposal. After a few days, I'll be leaving. Those who are willing to come with me, those who aren't will stay. I came back this time for this matter," Yang Kai added. "Is that true?" Zhong Yuan stood up and stared at Yang Kai with scorching eyes. "Yang Shengzhu isn't joking?" Thunder Dragon also asked incredulously. Although they didn't know what kind of price they would have to pay to bring people into Star's territory, it certainly wouldn't be easy. If Yang Kai had the ability to do so, he would definitely prioritize his friends and family in the human race, but now he was actually offering this favor to the monster race and demon race. Both Zhong Yuan and Thunder Dragon couldn't help feeling a little disheartened. "I'm not joking," Yang Kai replied seriously. Hearing his affirmation, Zhong Yuan and Thunder Dragon both froze. After a long time, Zhong Yuan asked solemnly, "Dare I ask Yang Shengzhu, what kind of price do we need to pay? Submit to you? Pledge our loyalty?" "Ha ha." Yang Kai grinned, a look of ridicule appearing on his face as he said lightly, "Why would I need you to submit to me? Yen, to put it bluntly, the current me can flatten all of Tongxian realm with a single finger. If I wanted you to submit to me, there would be no need for me to waste so much time talking nonsense with you. I would simply use force to suppress you." Zhong Yuan and Thunder Dragon instantly began sweating profusely. They didn't think that Yang Kai was spouting nonsense. They had already learned from Yang Kai's previous explanation that his territory had reached a higher level of tyranny, something they really couldn't resist. This young man had already surpassed the legendary figure of his generation, the great demon god who was regarded as the supreme existence of the demon race. He had walked further and stood taller. Even if the great demon god was resurrected, he would only be able to look up to him. Then why did Yang Shengzhu? Thunder Dragon looked at Yang Kai hesitantly. "We're all old friends, if I can help, I'll help, I have no other intentions," Yang Kai said lightly. Zhong Yuan and Thunder Dragon both wore looks of shame, wishing they could find a hole to crawl into and never come out again. Suddenly, Zhong Yuan cupped his fists solemnly and said, Yang Shengzhu is of noble character and unquestionable integrity. This Zhong Yuan has been a bit too narrow-minded. If this Zhong Yuan has offended you in any way, I hope Yang Shengzhu can forgive us. Thunder Dragon also quickly expressed his apologies, his face filled with sincerity. It's fine, you are both leaders of your respective clans, it's only right for you to consider the bigger picture. Yang Kai waved his hand lightly, indicating that he didn't care. If he were in their shoes, he would also consider things this way. The expressions of the two masters relaxed slightly. Although there are many wonderful things in the Star Territory, there should also be many dangers. If Yang Shengzhu takes so many people into the Star Territory, can he protect the safety of his clansmen? Thunder Dragon asked with some concern. There will definitely be dangers, so whether you want to follow me or not is entirely up to you. Of course, you can also choose to stay. Perhaps Tongxian Realm will one day regain its vitality and become like the other cultivation stars in the Star Territory. At that time, you will be able to sense a deeper level of the Heavenly Way and Martial Tao, but when that time comes, it's hard to say. Yang Kai smiled lightly as he looked towards Xia Ningchang meaningfully. Since refining the star source of the Star, becoming its Star Master, and breaking through to the origin returning realm, Xia Ningchang's aura had significantly improved, and the layer of grey that had always shrouded her body seemed to have lightened significantly. As long as she could continue to break through at this speed, one day she would be able to stand at the peak of the Star Territory. At that time, the entire Tongxian realm would benefit. This matter is of great importance. I ask Yang Shengzhu to allow me to wait a few days. I need to discuss this matter carefully with them. Zhong Yuan frowned and said. Naturally, Yang Kai gently nodded. Immediately, Yang Kai ordered his subordinates to take the monster race and demon race masters away to rest so they could discuss this matter. There was no need to discuss the human race. 9 Heavens Holy Land, their friends and family in the central capital, and even Soaring Heaven sect had all decided to follow Yang Kai into the Star Territory. Of course, there were also some disciples who were unwilling to leave their homeland and wanted to stay behind in their sects, so the human race masters had no choice but to comply. Not everyone had a fearless adventurous spirit and was willing to gamble their life for an illusory dream. This required great courage and a yearning for higher levels of the martial Tao. However, overall, there weren't many people like this, with each sect accounting for about 30% of the total population. Everyone dispersed as there were still many things that needed to be dealt with. Soon, the hall emptied and Yang Kai walked towards a pair of beautiful twin sisters with a smile on his face. As Yang Kai approached, the breathing of the two women seemed to become slightly faster, as if they were very excited. Jiao my long time no see, Yang Kai greeted them with a smile. There had been too many people just now, so he hadn't had time to catch up with the Hu sisters, but now that he had some free time, he naturally wanted to talk to them. Moreover, they seemed to have been waiting for him here. The two women opposite him smiled lightly and said in unison, "Long time no see, how have you been?" "Good, good." Yang Kai nodded, his brow wrinkling slightly, a little confused. His eyes kept wandering back and forth between the two women, but he couldn't tell which one was Hu Jiao and which one was Hu Mai. This discovery made him scratch his head. After cultivating the twin chi shared spirit divine art, not only did their slightly different appearances become exactly the same, even their temperaments and life auras were the same. Just standing there, it was as if they were the same person. Moreover, their cultivations had actually reached the second-order saint realm, not the new saint realm Great Elder Shu Hui had reported at the beginning. This kind of cultivation speed was a bit terrifying. Yang Kai secretly clicked his tongue. Chapter 1562. Although little senior sister had already broken through to the origin returning realm and her cultivation was much higher than the Hu sisters, she had obtained a great opportunity to refine a star source, allowing her to achieve this. The Hu sisters definitely didn't have such a heaven-defying opportunity, but in this barren land with thin world energy, they were able to reach this level with their own efforts. It was obvious that their aptitude was extraordinary. Seeing the suspicion on Yang Kai's face, the woman on the left pursed her lips and smiled. "I am Jiao. I am Mai." The woman on the right added. Her voice was soft and extremely pleasant to listen to. The temperament and demeanor of the two seemed to be very different from before, a fusion of the boldness of the older sister and the shyness of the younger sister. Now, they were of one mind, which made them appear even more alike. If you didn't say it, I really wouldn't have noticed. Yang Kai scratched his head. This somewhat childish action made the two women laugh. Very few people can tell. Hu Jiaoer pursed her lips and smiled. Even father often confuses us. Yang Kai nodded gently. Even Hu Man couldn't tell his two daughters apart, so it wasn't strange that he couldn't recognize them. By the way, you heard what happened just now. Do you want to stay, or we'll go with you? Before Yang Kai could finish, the two women answered in unison, as if they were telepathic and didn't need to discuss anything. In that case, you should also prepare. I don't plan to wait too long. I'll set off in half a month. Okay, we'll go see father first and send a message to master, Hu Jiaoer said, and immediately left with Hu Maier without delay. However, they seemed a little reluctant to part. After not seeing each other for so many years, they really wanted to talk more with Yang Kai, but when they thought about how they could often see each other in the future, they weren't in a hurry. When they passed by Xia Ningchang, the two women gently nodded, their beautiful eyes bursting with envy. Xia Ningchang could naturally accompany Yang Kai, but they couldn't. Senior sister, let me teach you something in this half a month. After everyone left the hall, Yang Kai quickly walked towards Xia Ningchang and pulled her towards the secret chamber. What Yang Kai wanted to impart to Xia Ningchang was naturally the trick of condensing one's own potential and the things to pay attention to. Yang Kai had condensed his sure with the help of the emperor pressure emitted by the emperor garden, which was a cheap trick. Although the effect was amazing, it was not suitable for Xia Ningchang. However, this kind of understanding, comprehension, and experience was universal. Moreover, he had learned a lot of valuable experience from Qian Tong and the others. Now, he had also taught them to Xia Ningchang. In addition to this, Yang Kai also passed on the true alchemy enlightenment scripture. Little senior sister had a special constitution like the sacred spirit medicine body, so she naturally knew how to refine pills and didn't need anyone to teach her. The true alchemy enlightenment scripture was profound and mysterious, so Xia Ningchang could draw useful information from it to improve her alchemy skills. Half a month was neither long nor short. Yang Kai and Xia Ningchang never left the secret chamber. Naturally, during this period, there were some romantic moments, heavenly thunders, earth fire, rain, and clouds. Since Yang Kai set foot on star territory, he had never been close to a woman. Now that he was reunited with such a beautiful woman, he was like a ferocious beast that had just broken free from its cage. Xia Ningchang's complexion was getting better and better, and even her skin gradually became more translucent, as if it could be broken by the slightest breeze. After all, beautiful flowers needed to be watered by rain and dew. Half a month later, Yang Kai and Xia Ningchang came out of seclusion together. In just half a month's time, Xia Ningchang was naturally unable to condense her own sha, but after obtaining the experience from Kai Yang, she was able to understand what sha was. Furthermore, she already had a small understanding of this mysterious power. Now all that was left was herself. The true alchemy enlightenment scripture was effortless for her, and the various techniques and spirit arrays recorded in it often made her eyes light up. 9 Heavens Holy Land was now crowded with nearly 10,000 people from the human, monster, and demon clans. Among these 10,000 people, there were 2,000 from the Holy Land, 3,000 to 4,000 from the central capital, 1,000 from the monster race, and 2,000 from the demon race. With such a huge number of people gathered here, the scene was extremely quiet. No one was making any noise, not even whispering. Everyone was just quietly waiting for the arrival of Yang Kai. They all wanted to know what method Yang Kai would use to bring so many people into Star's territory at once. With a flash of light, Yang Kai appeared, attracting the attention of over 10,000 people. Sweeping his eyes over the crowd, Yang Kai gently nodded. Since everyone is here, let's begin. Yang Kai, what do you need us to do? Just give us the order. Thunder Dragon shouted from below. We will cooperate fully. Zhong Yuan nodded in agreement. It's nothing, just relax and don't resist. Yang Kai smiled lightly, opened his mouth, and spat out a seemingly inconspicuous bead. This bead floated in front of him, attracting everyone's attention. They didn't know what mysteries this bead contained, nor did they know what Yang Kai wanted to do by taking it out at this time. The answer was soon revealed. Yang Kai stretched out his hand, pointed at the bead, and flicked his finger, sending it flying out like an arrow, directly arriving above the place where the 10,000 people had gathered. With a soft pop, the sound of something exploding came from inside the bead and a mysterious force swept out. Everyone who felt this force felt as if they were being restrained. Out of their trust in Yang Kai, none of them circulated their Saint Chi to resist. Their vision blurred, and when they came back to their senses, they found that they had come to a completely unfamiliar place. This was not Nine Heaven's holy land, but the scenery here was beautiful. Moreover, the world energy aura here seemed to be extremely rich, at least 100 times higher than Tongxian realms. This discovery shook everyone's spirits. Hey, what's that? A man from the demon race seemed to have discovered a new world and shouted as he looked towards a certain direction. Following his gaze, everyone immediately discovered a long, pitch-black shuttle-shaped object that was more than 100 feet long was quietly suspended in mid-air. A starship, Demon Commander Zhong Yuan muttered, a look of horror flashing across his face. Although he had heard from Demon General Meng Ji that Yang Kai had an intact starship, he had never seen it with his own eyes, so he didn't know whether it was true or not. Now that this starship had appeared in front of him, he immediately understood that the news was true. Under the demon capital, there was a similar starship, but that starship was in tatters, and in terms of grade, it wasn't even worthy of carrying the shoes of the one in front of him. Zhong Yuan had some insight and could tell at a glance that this intact starship was extraordinary. What surprised him even more was that there were actually some people standing below the battleship. When these people looked at him and the others, their eyes were filled with surprise as they pointed at them curiously. Zhong Yuan habitually released his divine sense and swept these cultivators' bodies, his face changing dramatically. He found that the cultivation of each of these people far exceeded his own. Although they didn't give him the same sense of oppression as Yang Kai, they were definitely the legendary Saint King realm. Have we arrived at Star Territory? Are these people the cultivator of Star's territory? A trace of suspicion flashed across Zhong Yuan's heart. Many people had similar thoughts. Don't be nervous. Yang Kai's voice came from somewhere as his figure flickered and he appeared in front of the Saint King realm cultivator and explained, "These are my disciples. Greetings, Sect Master." These people, who made all cultivator from Tongxian realm feel unapproachable, quickly saluted Yang Kai. En. Yang Kai gently nodded before turning to the leader of this group and saying, "Liu Ping, these are my friends and family from my homeland. I will take them back to Shadowed Star and will stay here for a while. Take good care of them." "Yes." The man named Liu Ping quickly nodded. Yang Kai then walked over to Chu Ling Xiao and Ling Tai Shu, bowed, and said, "Martial Ancestor, Grand Master, this is a small sealed world. Although it is not very big, it is enough to accommodate 10,000 people. You will be safe here. When I arrive, I will call you out. This humble one has established High Heaven sect on a place called Shadowed Star and will need the two of you to oversee it. The journey will probably be a bit long, so it will take some time, perhaps several years. If there is anything you do not understand, you can ask these people, they will cooperate fully." "Good. You can go about your business, there is no need to worry about us." Chu Ling Xiao smiled kindly. The sealed world bead, an Origin King grade starship, he didn't know how precious it was. If he had known, he would not have been so calm. "Then I'll take my leave first. When I have time, I will come to visit you," Yang Kai said before leaving this small sealed world. After Yang Kai left, the man named Liu Ping immediately ran over and asked Ling Tai Shu, Chu Ling Xiao, and the others about their well-being. Just now, he had clearly heard Yang Kai call these two old men Martial Ancestor and Grand Master. Although his cultivation was much higher than these two, he did not dare show the slightest neglect, so when facing these two, he had to show the proper etiquette of a junior. Seeing this little brat act so courteously, Chu Ling Xiao and Ling Tai Shu didn't hold back and asked Liu Ping about the situation on Shadowed Star and High Heaven sect. After learning that High Heaven sect was now the dominant force on Shadowed Star, it could be said that it dominated all of Shadowed Star, both of them felt greatly relieved and proud. In just over 30 years, Yang Kai had single-handedly made an entire shadowed star submit to him. This was simply not something a human could accomplish. Both of them suddenly had a new understanding of Yang Kai's abilities. Immediately, they began to inquire about more information. Inside the sealed world bead, Yang Kai put it away and swept his divine sense across the empty nine heavens holy land. Putting away the slightest trace of nostalgia in his eyes, he turned to Xia Ningqiang, who was standing nearby, and said, "Senior sister, help me find someone." Chapter 1563. Xia Ningqiang did not enter the sealed world bead. She was now a first-order origin returning realm, so she would not drag Yang Kai down. Moreover, she had just broken through and had a lot to learn, so Yang Kai let her follow him around to make it easier for him to teach her. What's more, it was very pleasing to travel with a beauty. Hearing Yang Kai say this, she immediately asked, "Who are you looking for?" "Li Lao." Yang Kai looked at her. Xia Ningqiang immediately understood, gently nodded, closed her beautiful eyes, and began to investigate. Now that she was the Star Master of Tongxian Realm and had refined the star's source, she could shuttle back and forth anywhere in the world with a single thought. Here, she was the master. Looking for someone was a piece of cake for her. She used her divine sense to communicate with the star's source of Tongxian Realm, perceiving the information transmitted back to her by the flowers and trees in the world, distinguishing the traces of the person she was looking for. In less than half a day, she slowly opened her beautiful eyes and exclaimed, "Found him." Yang Kai's spirit shook as he stepped forward and grabbed Xia Ningqiang's small hand. "Take me to him." Xia Ningqiang gently nodded her head. Extending her jade-like hand, she pointed forward. Immediately, a black vortex appeared in the air, as if it wanted to devour everything. The two of them entered it and disappeared in an instant. On a nameless barren mountain, barren and desolate, a few thatched huts stood at the top of the mountain. No one would have thought that this was actually the place where the famous old man of Heaven's Keep, Li Rui, lived in seclusion. Yang Kai respected Li Lao very much, not only because he was the longest-lived sage in the entire world, having lived for thousands of years with a saint realm cultivation, but also because he had not been stingy with his teachings. When the bone race was recovering, Li Lao had come to Nine Heavens Holy Land and used his great reputation to rally the entire human race to help Yang Kai. When he returned to Nine Heavens Holy Land this time, Yang Kai didn't find any trace of Li Lao or his apprentice Jai Yao. Obviously, with Li Lao's temperament, it was impossible for him to stay in one place for too long, which was why he had left Nine Heavens Holy Land. Now that Yang Kai was going to Star Territory again, of course he wanted Li Lao to come with him. "Is this the place?" Xia Ningqiang brought Yang Kai to a barren mountain that was less than 1,000 feet high. Yang Kai couldn't help but frown. Millimeter Xia Ningqiang nodded gently. "But I didn't sense Li Lao's aura. Only Brother Zhai's." Hearing her say this, Yang Kai suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. He raised his head and looked in front of him. A few simple thatched huts came into view. In front of the thatched cottage, there were also a few medicinal fields. However, they weren't growing spirit grasses and medicines for cultivation, but rather some ordinary herbs. These herbs were very effective in treating ordinary people, but they were completely useless for cultivation. There was one person. In the middle of the medicinal field, this person was tending to the medicinal plants, watering and fertilizing them, repeating monotonous actions with a meticulous expression. Yang Kai stepped forward and walked towards him. "Do you want to see a doctor?" The man who was watering the plants heard movement and didn't raise his head, asking casually, "Brother Zhai, long time no see." Yang Kai looked at him with a smile and greeted him. Zhai Yao's movements paused, as if he had realized something, slowly straightening up and looking at Yang Kai. After seeing Yang Kai's face, he couldn't help but grin. He had a mouthful of bright white teeth, and a face that would make any woman jealous. Behind him, the afterglow of the setting sun poured down on his body, sputtering out a golden halo. "This brat is still as handsome as ever." Zhai Yao took 2 steps forward and hugged Yang Kai fiercely. "Brother Yang, when did you come back?" He didn't seem surprised at all, as if he already knew that Yang Kai would return safely. It's been almost 2 months. Zhai Yarrow gently nodded, shook off the dirt on his hands, and warmly greeted, "Come, let's drink and chat today." "Okay." Yang Kai readily responded. In front of the thatched cottage, the two sat on the ground. There was no delicious food, but the twinkling stars in the sky and the blowing wind were dishes to go with the wine. Xia Ning Chang sat on the side, holding a wine pot in his hands, pouring wine for Yang Kai and Zhai Yao. In front of the thatched cottage, in the starry sky, there were friends coming from afar. It was very pleasant. "Master passed away more than 20 years ago," Zhai Yarrow suddenly said without rhyme or reason. Although he had already guessed, when Yang Kai heard this news, his hand that was holding the wine cup still trembled slightly. Zhai Yarrow grinned. "He passed away peacefully. Master has been around this age for a long time. With the cultivation of the Saint realm, living for more than 1,000 years was not something that others could do. Li Laro was proficient in pills and used pills to regulate his body, which was why he could live such a long life. Brother Zhai, my condolences." Yang Kai thought for a long time, but didn't know what to say. Zhai Yarrow smiled. "Master's legacy is still there. Master lives in my heart." Yang Kai looked at him and also smiled, as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. "Brother Yang, why are you looking for Master this time?" Zhai Yarrow asked. "It's nothing. It's just that I'm going to leave again, and I want Li Laro and Brother Zhai to come with me." "Enter the territory?" Zhai Yarrow narrowed his eyes. "That's right." Yang Kai nodded. Zhai Yarrow was silent. After a while, he shook his head and said, "Master raised me and taught me. My kindness is as heavy as a mountain. I can't let him be here alone." Yang Kai opened his mouth, but before he could say anything, Zhai Yarrow smiled and said, "Brother Yang, there's no need to say more. I've made up my mind." Seeing that he was so insistent, Yang Kai could only sigh. With wine, he drank until he was drunk. At dawn, Zhai Yarrow was lying on the ground, snoring. Yang Kai and Xia Ning Chang found a simple grave on the peak of the mountain. After devoutly worshipping it and leaving some cultivation resources for Zhai Yarrow, they silently said goodbye. "Are we really leaving Brother Zhai there alone?" Xia Ning Chang was still a little worried. "It's his own decision," Yang Kai responded faintly. "But..." Xia Ning Chang seemed to want to say something else. "It's not necessarily a bad thing. When you succeed in your cultivation one day, the world will be revitalized. Whether Brother Zhai leaves or not, it's the same." Xia Ning Chang nodded, indicating that he understood. After thinking for a while, he asked, "Where are we going now?" "The central capital. There should be a shortcut to the territory of the star. We can find someone we both know." Yang Kai smiled slightly. After a while, the two arrived at the free and unfettered territory and entered a place not far from High Heaven Pavilion through the void corridor. After the seal set by Great Demon God was lifted, Tongxian Realm and the central capital were connected. The void corridor had always existed in the original free and unfettered territory. Yang Kai was no stranger to this. The central capital was the starting point of his life. After arriving, Yang Kai swept the area with his divine sense and immediately noticed that there were many more people in the original High Heaven Pavilion. He didn't know which family or small sect occupied it, but it seemed quite prosperous. Yang Kai didn't disturb them. Now, the cultivator here was as weak as a child to him. He also didn't go to the central capital. The original central capital 8 great families. The 3 families close to him were all in the sealed world bead. The remaining 5 families were now thriving in the central capital. Yang Kai was too lazy to pay attention to them. He took his little senior sister with him, flying directly to the ash-grey cloud evil land. Although his little senior sister was the star master of Tongxian Realm, in the central capital, she couldn't travel thousands of kilometers in a flash. This place had its own world principles and was a separate world. Yang Kai didn't know how this world was formed, but after witnessing the process of Tongxian Realm's birth, prosperity, and decline, he vaguely felt that the central capital should be related to the ancient and powerful cultivator. Perhaps, it was one of those masters with heaven-defying cultivation who had created this world. The ash-grey cloud evil land was as chaotic as ever. In the past, There were several great evil kings who governed and suppressed it. Although this land was filled with filth and evil, there were still some rules that needed to be followed. But since those great evil kings died or disappeared, the ash-grey cloud evil land had completely become a chaotic land of evil. There were all kinds of people here, burning, killing, looting, anything could happen. Here, there was no reason to speak of, only those with bigger fists were right. Along the way, all the things the two of them saw and heard were insane and heinous. Young Kai was able to remain calm, but his little senior sister couldn't help but fiercely teach a few shameless bullies a lesson, calming her anger. Fragrant City, originally a city under the jurisdiction of the beguiling demon queen Shanqing Luo, was the last pure land in the ash-grey cloud evil land. But since Shanqing Luo disappeared, this last pure land had been polluted, and the city had fallen into darkness and chaos. When passing through this place, Yang Kai naturally couldn't help but reminisce. Back then, he and the Dragon Lady had become acquainted with each other in this land, but after Yang Kai returned from Tongxian realm, he had never seen her again. He had thought that he would never meet Shanqing Luo again in this life. Unexpectedly, during his trip to the Emperor Garden, he had learned of her whereabouts, met her, and fought side by side. Towards this extremely charming enchantress, Kai Yang found it hard to forget her. The place he was going to this time was the Spider Mother's nest. According to Shanqing Luo's personal maid, Biluo, she and Shanqing Luo had accidentally opened the altar in the Spider Mother's nest and were sent directly to Monster Star's territory. Therefore, Yang Kai also wanted to borrow the altar. If he succeeded, not only could he see how the Dragon Lady was doing, but he could also save a lot of time. He didn't want to spend several years on a starship just to travel. The Spider Mother's nest wasn't too far from Fragrant City, only a few tens of thousands of kilometers away. With Yang Kai's current speed, it would only take half a cup of tea's time to arrive. The Spider Mother's nest was as dilapidated as ever. After it collapsed, no one cared about this place anymore. After arriving here, Yang Kai entered the huge spider statue and easily found a strange altar. The altar was only about the height of a person, but it was engraved with many profound and complicated patterns. It looked like a wonderful array, but also like some ancient characters. Yang Kai released his divine sense but didn't find anything unusual. On the other hand, there were some dark traces left on the altar. This was Shanqing Luo's blood. Chapter 1564. Junior brother, what is this for? Xia Ning Chang poked her head out from the side and asked curiously. This is the shortcut. Yang Kai smiled slightly and explained to her in detail. Hearing that Shanqing Luo and Biluo had entered Star territory directly from here, Xia Ningchang was immediately curious. She also finally knew who Kai Yang wanted to see. She couldn't help but giggle to herself. From time to time, she would look at Kai Yang with her clear eyes, looking at him meaningfully. Ian, it's not what you think. Yang Kai helplessly defended himself. Forget it, I'll study this thing, you can do as you please. Ian. Xia Ningchang nodded and found a clean place nearby to sit down. While comprehending the true alchemy enlightenment scripture, she also tried to condense her shi. Yang Kai reached out and gently stroked the strange patterns on the altar in front of him, releasing his divine sense to carefully examine them. Since Shanqing Luo and Biluo could both go to Monster Star and Monster Star from here, it meant that this altar had the ability to connect the two ends of space. In other words, as long as the conditions were met, this altar could form a tunnel between the two ends of space, ignoring the obstruction of space. This was even more profound than the most powerful space array. Yang Kai knew that some of the most ancient space arrays in star territory could teleport a cultivator from one cultivation star to another across hundreds of millions of kilometers, but this kind of space array was extremely rare. Not only were they rare, but most of them were also damaged, making it extremely risky to use them. Perhaps someone like Heaven Battling Union's Mo Xiaosheng could repair ordinary space arrays, but this kind of special space array, there was absolutely nothing he could do. Therefore, generally speaking, even if a force had this kind of special space array, it would not be used easily unless it was absolutely necessary. They would rather take a starship, travel slowly, and spend a lot of time traveling to their destination than risk their lives. The best way to activate the altar in front of him was Shan Qing Luo's bloodline. In the past, she and Biluo had inadvertently used their own blood to open the altar. However, Yang Kai could not use this method. His golden blood was indeed powerful. However, it did not have the effect of Shan Qing Luo's bloodline. So he could only rely on his own profound attainments in the Tao of space. Under his investigation, the ancient characters on the altar remained calm. Without any reaction, Yang Kai did not become impatient and instead immersed himself in them. Gradually, he felt a sense of wonder. These ancient characters seemed to have a life of their own. There was also a very subtle connection between them. Yang. He tried again and again. Bit by bit. He felt that he had made some gains, but when he looked carefully, he found nothing. Time slowly passed. Little senior sister sat quietly to the side, not disturbing Yang Kai. Currently, she was immersed in the process of condensing Shi and comprehending the true alchemy enlightenment scripture, so she was completely oblivious to the movements around her. One day, Yang Kai suddenly opened his eyes, a brilliant light bursting from them, seemingly having made some progress. He mobilized his own space force, allowing this mysterious power to shuttle back and forth across the ancient altar, connecting the complex characters. Like a needle, these characters became more and more closely connected to each other until they were inseparable. When Yang Kai's space force penetrated the last character, the pattern on the altar suddenly burst with light, as if it had been given a new life and floated out from the altar. These lines swam through the void like fish, rearranging themselves, and finally forming the phantom of a large gate in front of Yang Kai. Little senior sister, Yang Kai shouted. Xia Ningchang quickly gathered her thoughts and her tender body flickered, arriving beside Yang Kai and grasping Yang Kai's hand. She knew that the time had come. Yang Kai did not delay as he stared intently at the phantom of the tightly closed gate, a dignified expression on his face. Although he had successfully comprehended the mysteries of the altar with his attainments in the Tao of space and formed the phantom of this gate, he did not have the key to open it. Shan Qing Luo's bloodline was the key to this gate. However, Yang Kai had his own method. He condensed his space force at the tip of his finger, pointed forward in a seemingly slow but urgent manner, and then fiercely slashed downward. The void seemed to tremble as a crack suddenly appeared on the tightly closed gate. At first, the crack was very small, almost imperceptible, but it quickly expanded. In the blink of an eye, it swallowed up the gate, revealing a dark passage. This was a void corridor that connected the two ends of space separated by hundreds of millions of kilometers. The interior was a chaotic void, like the maw of a ferocious beast, capable of swallowing everything in the world. Xia Ningchang's tender body could not help but tense up as she gripped Yang Kai's hand even tighter. Yang Kai did not hesitate as he pulled Xia Ningchang into the passage. When the two figures disappeared, the dark passage also closed up and disappeared. The surroundings were silent. In this place, there was no sound, no light. Xia Ningchang and Yang Kai could only see darkness. However, Xia Ningchang could vaguely feel a mysterious power flowing around her. This power was like a rushing river, wanting to drown her. Yang Kai had protected her. This was a void corridor, a mysterious and unknown place that ordinary people could not reach. It was a forbidden zone where all living things could not survive. Any powerhouse could get lost in this mysterious world, eventually being swallowed up by the darkness and never being able to rise again. Even if it was Yang Kai, he had to be extremely vigilant as he walked around, his divine sense constantly scanning the surroundings, helping Xia Ningchang avoid the murderous auras that came from the void. This strange place seemed to be able to affect the thoughts of living beings and their perception of time. Yang Kai could only desperately mobilize his space force to resist the interference coming from all directions. Shan Qing Luo and Biluo had used the altar to enter the Monster Star and Monster Star, so there was not much danger because her bloodline was compatible. However, Yang Kai had used a special method to forcibly open the altar, so the risk he had to bear was many times greater than the beguiling Demon Queen. Fortunately, his attainments in the Tao of space were quite good, so even though he was treading on thin ice, he was still able to cope with it. After an unknown amount of time, Yang Kai suddenly became spirited and rushed in a certain direction with Xia Ningchang. After arriving there, he stretched out his hand and tore through space, falling out of this mysterious unknown place with Xia Ningqiang. The little senior sister only came back to her senses at this moment, her confused eyes gradually becoming clear. She thought it had only been a moment, but she did not know that Yang Kai had been carrying her through the void corridor for many days. This mysterious place affected Xia Ningqiang's judgment of the passage of time. This should be an underground cave, damp and dark, but there were some white skeletons scattered in front of them. From the size of the skeletons, these skeletons must have been huge when they were alive. This is... Xia Ningqiang looked around, a blank look on his face. Yang Kai stepped forward, reached out, and picked up a piece of bone, carefully examining it. After a while, he grinned. "We're here. This is Monster Star, Monster Star. Monster Star, Monster Star?" Xia Ningqiang murmured, "Is this the stars where Big Sister Queen lives?" "Yes." Yang Kai nodded. He could make this judgment thanks to the white bones on the ground. If he guessed correctly, these white bones should be the bones of the ancient variant Heavenly Moon Demon Spider. When Shanqing Luo and Biluo arrived here, the first thing they encountered was the skeleton of a Heavenly Moon Demon Spider. Shanqing Luo had absorbed the essence of this ancient variant Heavenly Moon Demon Spider, which was why she was chosen by Red Moon Tribal Lord and adopted as her daughter, allowing her to survive on Monster Star. Otherwise, with her human identity, how could she have gained a foothold on this Monster Star? It would have been even more impossible for her to reach the third-order origin returning realm in just a few decades. The Heavenly Moon Demon Spider's essence had helped Shanqing Luo greatly. Her bloodline had some traces of the Heavenly Moon Demon Spider, so she was able to open the altar and obtain the opportunity that belonged solely to her. Opportunities were really mysterious. Yang Kai had worked hard over the years and his luck was not bad, but he had only just broken through to the second-order origin returning realm, but Shanqing Luo had already surpassed him. Yang Kai pondered as he recalled all the information Biluo had revealed to him in the Emperor Garden. He didn't know much about Monster Star, only that it was a cultivation star dominated by the monster race. Although there were also humans on Monster Star, they were nothing more than foils for the monster race. The human race had its own advantages. Although the monster race was powerful, they did not exterminate the human race and instead allowed them to roam freely. Only when some masters emerged from the human race who could threaten the monster race's dominance would the monster race's masters take action. On Monster Star, the human race had no status. The 10 tribal lords were the rulers of Monster Star, each of them an Origin King Realm Master. Red Moon Tribal Lord, who had adopted Shanqing Luo as her daughter, was one of them. Yang Kai thought about it for a while, but this was all the information he had obtained, which gave him a headache. "Let's get out of here first," Yang Kai called out to Xia Ningqiang and led her out of the underground cave. Outside, Yang Kai suddenly discovered that this place was filled with towering mountains and precipitous peaks. The world energy here was rich, but there was also a thick demonic qi everywhere. From time to time, the roars of fierce monster beast and the sounds of fighting could be heard. Yang Kai really didn't know how Shanqing Luo had managed to leave this place safely back then. Obviously, she had suffered a lot. Collecting his thoughts, Yang Kai summoned his star shuttle and swaggered through the jungle with Xia Ningqiang. This place might be extremely dangerous for others, but for Yang Kai, it was nothing. He was not afraid of anyone below the Origin King realm. Even if it was an ordinary Origin King, he could face them calmly. Having cultivated the Tao of space, few people could force him into a desperate situation unless they were like Star Emperor Mountain's sect master, Qi Tianche, who had dragged him into a small sealed space. However, that alone was not enough. One needed absolute force to suppress him. Qi Tianche did not have such ability, so he died. Chapter 1565. What Yang Kai needed to do the most right now was to gather some information. It should be easy to find out where Shanqing Luo was. Since she was the adopted daughter of Red Moon Tribal Lord, she must be with Red Moon Tribal Lord. When they parted in the Emperor Garden, Shanqing Luo's heart-wrenching cries still echoed in Yang Kai's ears. Since he had come to Monster Star, he naturally wanted to see if this dragon lady was living well. A few days later, Yang Kai and Xia Ningchang flew out of the mountains and forests. However, along the way, although Yang Kai encountered many creatures, they were all uncivilized monster beast. He couldn't get any information from them at all, which made him feel very helpless. He could only pin his hopes on what lay ahead. While flying aimlessly with Xia Ningchang, Yang Kai released his divine sense to investigate their surroundings. Suddenly, he seemed to have found something and pointed in a direction. There's some movement over there, let's go take a look. Okay. Xia Ningchang naturally had no objections. The two landed and walked side by side in the direction Yang Kai had just pointed out. Not long after, a group of about a dozen cultivator figures appeared in front of them. These cultivators exuded a wild aura, which was very different from the energy response of a normal human cultivator. Moreover, each of them more or less had some physical characteristics of a monster beast. This group of more than a dozen cultivators were clearly monster race. They were riding on wolf-shaped demonic beasts with golden armor. They looked majestic and awe-inspiring. They were urging their mounts to gallop madly. Although there were only a dozen of them, they were like a flood of steel. It was a grand sight. Sweeping them with his divine sense, Yang Kai found that the highest cultivation of these monster race cultivators was only a second-order Saint King, so there was nothing to be afraid of. So, he led Xia Ningchang forward to meet them. Sorry to disturb you. When he got closer, he cupped his fists at the leader of the demon clan with a warm smile on his face. The other party had obviously noticed him long ago. Riding the wolf-shaped monster beast, he leaped in front of him and looked down at him from above. His slightly white eyes revealed a natural sense of contempt and scrutiny. The monster beast he was sitting on panted and breathed out a foul smell on Yang Kai's face. It seemed like it wanted to stretch its head out. She sniffed the Yang Kai to see if it was delicious. Yang Kai smiled. He remained unmoved. This was the monster star, the world of the monster race. Therefore, the monster race had a natural sense of superiority when facing creatures of other races. They felt that there was no other race that could be compared to the supreme demon race. In front of the powerful demon clan, no matter which race it was, all of them could only bow their heads and serve as slaves and servants. Human. The leader of the demon race cast a sidelong glance at Yang Kai, recognizing his identity at a glance. The wolf-shaped monster beast he was sitting on snorted. As if sensing the displeasure in its master's heart, it circled around Yang Kai and Xia Ningchang. After returning to his previous position, the demon race cultivator coldly snorted and said, "What are you two humans doing here?" "Hehe, I accidentally got lost. May I ask, where is this place?" "This is the Red Moon territory." The demon race cultivator proudly replied, "This is the territory of the Great Red Moon territory. You don't know where this is and you came here?" I know this is the territory of the Red Moon territory." Yang Kai chuckled. "What I want to ask is, where is the nearest city? If it's convenient, can you tell me where the Red Moon territory lord's palace is?" "You want to know the location of the territory master's palace?" When the demon race cultivator heard this, his expression turned cold, and he looked at Yang Kai with even more hostility. "Why are you asking about this?" "It's nothing. I have a friend in the Red Moon territory lord's palace, and I want to see her." Yang Kai casually replied. "A friend?" The demon race cultivator was stunned for a moment, then immediately laughed out loud. His laughter was full of ridicule, and even the other demon race cultivators also laughed. "Human, I advise you to give up. The territory master's palace is not open to anyone without being summoned, not even us demons, let alone you humans. But don't worry. The territory master has always been benevolent to humans. Your friend is a servant in the palace, so she should be living a good life." He subconsciously thought that the friend Yang Kai mentioned was just an insignificant person in the Red Moon territory lord's palace. This was very normal. The humans in the territory master's palace were all beautiful and handsome men who were carefully selected. They did not do anything else other than work as servants. In the monster race's territory, humans had never had much status. "Ian, thank you for your reminder, but I still want to know the location of Senior Red Moon's palace," Yang Kai insisted. "Humans are all as arrogant as you, that's why I don't like it. The demon race cultivator coldly snorted and said arrogantly, I can tell you, but not for free. Give me something in exchange. Sure. Yang Kai nodded and threw a bag of saint crystals to the demon race cultivator. The demon race cultivator caught it, opened it, and was suddenly overjoyed, exclaiming, high-rank saint crystals. As soon as these words came out, all the demon race cultivator showed a look of greed, looking at the bag, then at Yang Kai and Xia Ningqiang. Many of them looked at Yang Kai with malicious eyes. Can you tell me now? Yang Kai looked at the other party with a smile. Ien, you're quite tactful, human. I'll tell you. The demon race cultivator pondered for a while before his expression gradually calmed down and he began to tell Yang Kai the information he wanted. After a short while, Yang Kai cupped his fists to the group of cultivator and calmly left with Xia Ningqiang. Master, this human looks very rich. Why did you let them go? A young-looking demon race cultivator came up to the leader and asked suspiciously. Tempage, you think I can't see how rich he is? Then why didn't you let them stay? This is the wilderness. Even if Master Red Moon didn't let us kill humans, no one would know if we did. Idiot. If we really did, I'm afraid it wouldn't be those two who died, but us. Ah. Master, that's not necessary. The demon race youth didn't believe it. That's not necessary. He is so rich, but when facing so many of our companions, did he show the slightest bit of fear? Even that human woman beside him didn't panic at all. What does this mean? It means that the two of them don't put us in their eyes at all. You idiot, you only see the light of the saint crystals, but you ignore their strength. It's because this is the wilderness that I don't dare to act rashly, otherwise. Hearing him say this, the demon race youth couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. He reluctantly looked at Yang Kai and Xia Ningqiang as they left and sighed, that woman looks so delicate, if only I could take a bite. Some of the demon race cultivators were transformed from monster beast, so they still maintained the habit of eating raw meat and drinking blood when they were monster beast. But overall, there weren't many such cultivators. Most of the demon race cultivators were born in human form, but they still retained some traces of monster beast. This monster race youth was obviously a monster beast in disguise, so he wasn't interested in Xia Ningqiang's face that was hidden under the black veil. Instead, he was drooling over her fair skin and sparkling flesh. Human flesh and blood had always been delicious, especially the flesh and blood of young human women. Enough nonsense. Qianyang Master's little lord should already be on his way. We need to inquire about his whereabouts and then send a message back. Tribal Lord Master will send someone to pick him up. This is our mission, we can't afford to make any mistakes, the demon race youth said solemnly. The monster race cultivator quickly said, but soon, a gloomy look appeared on his face as he gritted his teeth and muttered, I wonder how many women will fall into the hands of this little lord. Hearing them mention this young lord of senior Qianyang's, all the monster race cultivators fell silent out of fear, seemingly quite afraid of this guy. Junior brother, what should we do now? Xia Ningqiang followed closely behind Yang Kai and asked softly. Let's go to the nearest city first. Yang Kai sighed. Although he had easily inquired about the location of Red Moon Tribal Lord's palace from the demon race cultivator, it was impossible to find Shanqing Luo there. The cultivator had said very clearly that without being summoned, no one was allowed to approach the Tribal Lord Master's palace, otherwise they would be killed without mercy. Even the demon race didn't dare to overstep this rule, let alone Yang Kai and Xia Ningqiang, who were still humans. Kai Yu, one of the 10 tribal lords of Monster Star, was in the palace, so even if Yang Kai was confident, he didn't dare act rashly in front of her. She was an origin king, and according to Biluo, she seemed to be a second-order origin king. Rushing in rashly would definitely be courting death. Yang Kai had to think of a way. It would be best if he could send a message to Shanqing Luo and ask her to come out and see him. Yang Kai fell into contemplation. One day later, he and Xia Ningqiang arrived in front of a monster race city. Shimmering Moon City was somewhat different from the other cities Yang Kai had seen before. The buildings in this city showed the rough and wild style of the monster race. They weren't exquisite, but they gave off a rather grand feeling. Naturally, not everyone in the city was from the monster race, there were also human figures coming and going. Red Moon Tribal Lord was better than the other tribal lords in this regard, and that was, in her territory, no monster race member was allowed to kill innocent humans. Although the status of humans was low, humans had their own advantages, and it was precisely because Caillou saw these advantages that she gave them space to live. The other 9 tribal lords weren't as far-sighted as she was. This was especially true for Wild Lion Tribal Lord, who was the most bloodthirsty of them all. There were no traces of human existence in his territory, and his subordinates also adhered to the concept of a master tribal lord, directly killing and eating any humans they saw. As a result, the humans who originally lived in his territory had all scattered and fled, flocking to Red Moon territory, which was relatively safe for humans. Overall, Shimmering Moon City's human and monster races lived in harmony. Of course, the status of humans was always inferior. Chapter 1566. For example, to enter Shimmering Moon City, a monster race cultivator only needed to pay 3 mid-rank Saint Crystals to enter, but Yang Kai had to pay 1 high-rank Saint Crystal to enter. Regarding this, Yang Kai had no complaints. After paying 2 Saint Crystals, he entered the city with Xia Ningchang. The extremely spacious streets were large enough to accommodate several 4-horse carriages driving side by side. On both sides of the street, there were all kinds of shops, dazzling the eyes. From time to time, there would be human and monster race cultivator coming in and out, looking very busy. The owners of these shops were also very welcoming, trying to attract business for their shops. Along the way, Yang Kai found that most of the shops were run by human race cultivators. On the contrary, there were very few monster race cultivators. In terms of business, human race cultivators were obviously more talented than monster race cultivators. Looking around, Yang Kai's eyes gradually lit up. He found that on this monster star, there were many cultivation materials that were not available on Shadowed Star. This was a very normal thing. Every place or territory had its own unique products. Monster Star was a cultivation star dominated by the monster race. Here, the most common goods that appeared on the market were naturally monster beast body materials and monster core. When he discovered this, Yang Kai was taken aback. He had not expected that in a monster race city, everyone was blatantly doing business with monster beast. This made him very puzzled. After all, many monster race cultivators were monster beast incarnations. Did they not have any sense of rejection? For example, in the cities of Shadowed Star, if someone sold human limbs or organs, no one would patronize them. But thinking about it carefully, Yang Kai was relieved. It was reasonable. Since monster beast business was so popular here, everyone must have become accustomed to it. What's more, not all monster race cultivators were monster beast incarnations. Even the monster beast cultivator would kill other weaker monster beast cultivators and eat their flesh. Devour their monster cores. Strengthen themselves. Yang Kai looked around with interest. Junior brother, there are so many high-grade materials here. Xia Ningchang's eyes were shining. On Tongxian realm, she was limited by the grade of materials produced there, so she could not refine high-grade pills. But as soon as she came to Monster Star, it was like entering a huge treasure trove. The dazzling array of high-grade materials made her want to buy them all and return to refine pills. Now that she had refined the star source of stars, the prosperity and decline of Tongxian realm were closely related to her, so Xia Ningchang could not wait to improve her strength. To her, concocting pills was a form of cultivation. Through concocting pills, she could increase her cultivation at a freakish speed. Unfortunately, we don't have many Saint Crystals left. Yang Kai also had a headache. Xia Ningchang had taken a fancy to these materials, so did he. But most of the Saint Crystals he carried had been used up when Xia Ningchang refined the star source of stars, so what was left could only be used as a backup and could not be bought in bulk. Looking at Xia Ningchang's disappointed eyes, Yang Kai smiled slightly, but it doesn't matter if we buy some. The little senior sister suddenly smiled, her eyes curved into beautiful crescents. The two immediately walked into a shop and began to check the goods, bargaining with the shop owner. Half a day later, Xia Ningchang's space ring had a lot of alchemy materials. Yang Kai also had a lot of herbs in his space ring, most of which were the ones he obtained from the floating continent and the Emperor Garden. The rest were things he had purchased on Shadowed Star. If combined with the monster beast's monster core, many of the ancient pill recipes recorded in the true alchemy enlightenment scripture could be used. Yang Kai had never been able to collect the materials needed for these ancient pill recipes, most of which required the monster beast's monster core. On Shadowed Star, powerful monster beasts were rare, so Yang Kai could not make bricks without straw. However, this monster star greatly satisfied his requirements. There were not many things here, but there were countless monster beast materials. He was already considering whether or not he should stay in this place for a while and plunder it. In addition to alchemy materials, Yang Kai also needed the monster beast's soul to cultivate his blood beast and origin king grade pills to refine. However, the lack of saint crystals was still the biggest problem. After purchasing the materials, Yang Kai took Xia Ningchang to the nearest inn and asked for a good room. Although the architectural style of Shimmering Moon City was very rough, the room Yang Kai and Xia Ningchang lived in was very well maintained. Not only was the environment of the room excellent, but there were also barriers around it that could block the divine senses of others from prying into it. This could be regarded as a way to protect guests. The owner of the inn was a monster race cultivator, but he was not as overbearing as other monster race cultivators. On the contrary, this old man was very amiable and warmly received Yang Kai's senior sister and brother, which slightly changed Yang Kai's negative impression of the monster race. After arranging accommodation for Xia Ningchang, Yang Kai left the inn and began to inquire about useful information in Shimmering Moon City. He did not forget that the main purpose of this trip was to take a look at the Shanqing Luo, but now, the biggest problem he faced was how to get close to Red Moon Tribal Lord's palace. After staying in Shimmering Moon City for several days, Yang Kai was at his wits' end. However, with the limited saint crystals he had, Yang Kai was able to buy some precious monster beast materials. "Young man, you seem to have something on your mind." On this day, Yang Kai was drinking and meditating in the inn when the owner of the inn came over with a smile, took the initiative to add a side dish for Yang Kai, and sat down across from him. "I see you've been looking for people to inquire about the tribal master's palace these past few days. Do you have something you want to see the master?" This monster race old man had an amiable look on his face and seemed to be in his 50s or 60s with a slightly stooped waist. In recent days, he had taken great care of Yang Kai, doing his best to satisfy all of his requests. Seeing the old man sit down, Yang Kai chuckled and said, "I won't hide it from old sir. I was inquiring about the tribal master's palace not because I wanted to see the master." "Oh." The owner of the inn looked at him with interest. "Then what do you want to do?" "Do you know that your inquiries have attracted the attention of many people? The monster race is not very friendly to humans." "I understand." Yang Kai gently nodded. When he was looking for people to inquire about the tribal lord's palace these past few days, he had indeed felt this. The monster race cultivator either ridiculed him, disdained him, or even threatened him. If it weren't for Red Moon Territory's many rules, it was likely the monster race cultivator would have attacked him. A mere human dared to inquire about the matters of the tribal master's palace. He simply didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. "If you don't want to see the tribal master, then what do you want?" the owner of the inn asked. "To be honest, I have a friend who should be in the tribal master's palace. I haven't seen her for decades. The last time I saw her, we parted in a hurry. I didn't even have time to say goodbye, so I want to visit her," Yang Kai answered honestly. "Friend? He, woman?" The owner of the inn smiled a little slyly, with an expression of "I know everything" on his face. Yang Kai laughed dryly. "That woman likes you?" the owner of the inn asked again. Old sir, you're so nosy." Yang Kai's face turned red. The old man smiled slightly and didn't dwell on this issue, instead sighing with emotion. "Young man, you have good fortune. I see that the woman who came with you is also a good girl. Living in seclusion, yet there are still women out there who miss you. Ian, this old man is envious." Changing the topic, the old man said, "In fact, it's very simple to inquire about the matters of the palace." "Oh. Please enlighten me, old sir." Yang Kai immediately became spirited and humbly asked for advice. Every month or so, the The people from the palace will go out to purchase some supplies. Our shimmering moon city is not too far away from the palace and can be considered quite prosperous, so we are generally regarded as their primary target. Every month, there will be people from the palace coming over. You only need to wait a few days and you will be able to see the maidservant in the palace. If you're lucky, you may be able to meet her directly. Obviously, like the first monster race cultivator Young Kai met before, he thought that Young Kai's friend was a maidservant in the palace. After all, humans who could enter the tribal master's palace were of such status. Young Kai's eyes lit up. Although the owner of the inn misunderstood the identity of Shan Qing Luo, this was not necessarily a bad idea. If he could get the maidservant to pass a message to Shan Qing Luo or something, then all the problems would be solved. Thank you, old sir, for your guidance. Young Kai happily cupped his fists. It's no matter, this old man didn't do anything, no need to thank me. Old sir. Young Kai looked at him with a chuckle. I feel that your attitude towards humans is very different from other monster race cultivators. Don't you dislike humans? Dislike? Why would I dislike them? The owner of the inn looked at Young Kai with a smile. Humans are very good. This old man also knew a very special human when he was young. Young Kai clearly saw a trace of rich tenderness flash through the old man's eyes. He suddenly understood something. Forget it, I won't say anything more. Young man, enjoy your meal. This old man is old, I'll go lie down for a while. The owner of the inn suddenly seemed a little dispirited. As he spoke, he stood up. His back seemed to become even more bent. Young Kai silently sighed. It seemed that when the owner of the inn was young, he seemed to have liked human women. A love union between different races was not something that could be easily tolerated in any place, not to mention that this was the monster star where the monster race reigned supreme. Humans had no status at all. However, it was precisely because this was not allowed that in many places, love unions between different races would eventually lead to separation, and even the death of both parties. It was an inspiring and tragic legend. Young Kai did not think too much about it. After drinking a few cups of wine, he returned to the side room. After exhorting Xia Ning Chang, who was refining pills, he went straight to the city gate. According to the owner of the inn, the maidservants in the palace would be purchasing supplies in the next few days. Young Kai was going to wait and see if he could find a suitable person to pass a message to Shan Qing Luo. Chapter 1567. Not far from the city gate of Shimmering Moon City, there was a tea house. The location was good, just enough to see the situation of the cultivator coming in and out of the city gate. Young Kai went out early and returned late, waiting in this tea house for several days, but did not see any maidservants from the palace appear. On this day, just as he was bored and tasting tea, there was a sudden commotion at the city gate. The cultivators who were waiting in line to enter the city parted to both sides of the road, as if they were making way for some kind of big shot. Among the crowd, there were also some shouts, and Young Kai vaguely heard cries of his here. Did the maidservants from the palace come? Kai Yang's spirit shook as he took it for granted. The commotion at the city gate also passed to the tea house, and the cultivator who was drinking tea in the tea house also came out of the tea house and gathered on the street. After a while, the spacious street was full of people, all of them looking at the city gate. Although there were many people, it was very quiet. Young Kai also came out of the tea house and squeezed into the crowd, looking at the city gate with a look of expectation, looking for a suitable person to explain his request and let her help him pass the message. The ground trembled slightly, and the vibration came from the distance, as if thousands of soldiers and horses were rushing here. Young Kai frowned, suddenly realizing that things seemed to be a little different from what he thought. After all, if it was only the maidservants of the palace going out to purchase supplies, there should not be such a big commotion. What's more, since those maidservants came out once a month, the residents and cultivator of Shimmering Moon City should not be surprised by this, so it was impossible for them to just stand around and watch. Realizing this, he was a little disappointed. It seemed that it was not the maidservants of the palace who came. However, he was very curious about who came to Shimmering Moon City and attracted the interest of so many cultivator. After a while, a majestic wolf-shaped monster beast suddenly jumped in from the outside, and on this monster beast, there was a monster cultivator that Yang Kai looked familiar to. "Get out of the way! Get out of the way!" The demon race cultivator leisurely stepped into shimmering Moon City. He shouted loudly and waved a long whip in his hand, driving the onlooking cultivator further away to make way for a wider street. They followed closely behind him. More than 10 wolf-shaped monster beasts of similar size appeared. Every monster beast had a monster race cultivator riding it. They consciously scattered to the sides and waited respectfully in formation. Wasn't this the demon clan team that he had questioned a few days ago? Yang Kai looked at the leading cultivator and quickly remembered. This friend. Which master has graced shimmering Moon City with his presence? Why is there such a grand display? Suddenly, an inquiring voice came from the side. Obviously, the owner of this voice was also confused and was trying to get information from others. "I don't know." The person who was asked looked outside curiously. "I don't know what you're here to see." The person who asked the question immediately became unhappy. "I came to take a look because I didn't know." "Aren't you the same?" Cough cough. Just as everyone was puzzled and whispering to each other to find out the truth, 2 huge heads suddenly popped out from the city gate. These 2 heads had a single horn on them and were pitch black in color. Their skulls were covered with hard scales, and their eyes were like those of snakes, emitting waves of cold light that made people shudder. "This is..." A knowledgeable person immediately exclaimed. He could already see the origins of these 2 monster beasts. The 2 monster beasts' full appearance was soon imprinted in everyone's vision. Apart from the huge heads, these 2 monster beasts had a pair of wings on their backs, and their bodies were covered with dragon-like scales. Their long tails swung freely behind them, full of explosive power. 9th Order Monster Beast, Thunder Flame Flying Lizard. Not all monster beasts had the ability to transform into human form. Some monster beasts would maintain their beast form for their entire lives. This 9th Order Thunder Flame Flying Lizard was obviously one of them. Among the 9th Order monster beasts, it was of famous existence. It was born proficient in controlling thunder and fire and had a violent and cruel temper. Even a 2nd Order origin returning realm cultivator would have to flee at the sight of it. There were not many masters who could subdue this monster beast. But now, these 2 thunder flame flying lizards had been reduced to pulling a carriage, with the reins tied around their necks. Following behind them, an extremely luxurious carriage slowly drove into shimmering Moon City. This carriage was extremely luxurious and beautifully decorated. As the wheels turned, a crisp tinkling sound could be heard coming from inside, pleasing to the ear. The carriage was large and had no doors or windows, only some pink curtains hanging around it. It seemed that the owner of this carriage liked to be the center of attention. There were 3 people sitting inside the carriage, but almost everyone's eyes were focused on a single person at this moment. It was a man wearing a pure white robe, sitting on a soft couch. He was handsome and dignified. He just sat there casually, but his whole body was emitting a luxurious aura, making people unconsciously feel that they were a head shorter. At first glance, they would only think that this person was very handsome, but if they looked at him a second time, they would be immersed in his eyes. His eyes were very bright, very spirited, and seemed to be exuding a strange power. Any woman who looked into his eyes would unconsciously lose herself, like a moth that saw a flickering light, and would throw herself into it without a care. On the man's lap, there was a stunning woman who was half crouched. The man's slender and beautiful hands were gently stroking her black hair. The woman's eyes were slightly narrowed, revealing a look of extreme enjoyment, as if she was a pet that was enjoying the caress and care of its master. There was also a woman lying in the man's embrace. Her expression was similarly blurred, and her beautiful face was rosy, as if she had just been nourished by rain and dew. She was panting slightly, and her red lips emitted a captivating and beautiful light. Although he was surrounded by countless people, the man still had a smile on his face. His eyes, which were filled with an evil power, looked around without leaving a trace. Any woman who met his gaze would feel their hearts jump with joy. They could not wait to rush onto the beast carriage and accompany him, dedicating their bodies and minds to him. "I know who he is, his young master evil-eyed. "He's the young lord of Thousand Eyes, tribal lord, Mitien." Exclamations came from the crowd, revealing the noble identity of the man sitting on the carriage. Many people recognized him. The complexions of many men changed drastically as the looks in their eyes towards Mitien gradually changed, becoming one of dread. This couldn't be helped. This young master Evil Eye's reputation on Monster Star was simply too terrible. It was rumored that there were at least 800 women who had died at his hands, if not 1,000, and none of these women were killed by him by force or by his own hands. Instead, these women had taken the initiative to offer their lives to him. It was rumored that Mitien cultivated a kind of secret technique that allowed him to pluck yin to supplement yang. If he made love to a woman, no matter how outstanding they were, they would die. Even so, there were still more women who threw themselves into Mitien's arms without hesitation. The most hateful thing was that Mitien, whether it was a woman from the human race or the monster race, he would wantonly touch them. Many women had been poisoned by him in this way, so generally speaking, no matter where this Mitien went, men would not allow their women to come out and do their best to avoid meeting him. No one had heard that Mitien would come to Shimmering Moon City before, so no one had been on guard. If they had known earlier, they would have avoided him at all costs. But now, with the carriage pulled by 2 Ninth Order monster beast thunder flame flying lizards, and Mitien had appeared in front of them, how could they just leave? "It's over, it's over." Many cultivators looked at the lovey-dovey women around them and saw the admiration and love in their eyes towards Mitien, wishing they could rush up and tear this bastard into 1,000 pieces right now. But this was just a thought. Without even mentioning that Mitien was a third-order origin returning realm master, few were his opponents, and the 2 Ninth Order monster beast pulling his carriage were not to be trifled with. What's more, Mitien also had a huge backer behind him. Thousand Eyes tribal lord. He was a true tyrant, an origin king realm master, so which one dared to attack his son? Thousand Eyes tribal lord doted on his son very much, otherwise, he would not have used the thunder flame flying lizards to pull his carriage. Yang Kai, who was standing in the crowd, also learned the identity of this guy from the exclamations and discussions of the people around him and secretly felt a little strange. Why would the young lord of Thousand Eyes tribal lord's family come to Red Moon territory? As far as he knew, the relationship between the 10 tribal lords of Monster Star was not very harmonious. However, Yang Kai did not think too much about it. After learning that the person who had caused such a ruckus was not the maidservant he had been waiting for, he no longer had any interest in watching the fun. He did not like the look in the eyes of this young master Evil Eyes very much. It was a kind of arrogance that seemed to say that all the women in the world belonged to him. Yang Kai wanted to turn around and leave, but after recovering, he could not help being stunned. Because the cultivator on both sides of the street were all half kneeling on the ground, respectfully welcoming Mitien into the city. Yang Kai looked around and could not help frowning. He suddenly found that he stood out from the crowd. There were countless onlookers, and at this moment, all of them were half kneeling on the ground. Only Yang Kai stood there alone, so of course, he was particularly eye-catching. Mitien looked over at Yang Kai and raised his chin slightly. Even though he was just sitting on top of the carriage, he was still looking down on Yang Kai, his eyes filled with an oppressive aura. Bold. An angry roar came from the side as the monster race cultivator riding the wolf-shaped monster beast pulled on the reins in his hand and his mount rushed in front of Yang Kai, waving a long whip as he reprimanded, still not kneeling. Saying so, he was about to whip Yang Kai, seemingly wanting to teach him a lesson. Yang Kai looked at him indifferently. The monster race cultivator was startled and suddenly recognized Yang Kai's face. Wasn't this guy the human cultivator who had asked him for directions a few days ago? At that time, he felt that he was somewhat unfathomable. Chapter 1568. Thinking so in his heart, the monster race cultivator flicked his wrist slightly and the long whip that was originally aimed at Yang Kai was deflected, causing a loud crack to ring out. He couldn't figure out Yang Kai's depths, so he didn't dare act rashly, but on the other side, he had to protect young Lord Mitien's face. After all, even so many monster race masters had to bow to Mitien, yet a trivial human was still standing here. This was contempt for Mitien and an insult to the monster race as a whole. For a time, The monster race cultivator was at a loss, not knowing what to do, turning his eyes to Mitien for help. Human, you're quite bold, daring not to kneel before this young lord. Mitien smiled lightly, seemingly harmless, but anyone could hear the contempt in his words. Mitien's noble status and extraordinary strength gave him the qualifications to say such words. This human is doomed. Many cultivator had such thoughts in their hearts as they directed sympathetic looks towards Yang Kai. However, most of them were taking pleasure in Mitien's misfortune. With Yang Kai attracting Mitien's attention, this young lord evil-eyed, who had a terrible reputation, would not have any spare energy to pay attention to the beautiful women of Shimmering Moon City. Thinking so, many people felt grateful to Yang Kai and quietly pressed down the heads of the beautiful women beside them, not allowing them to fully reveal their faces. Kneel. Yang Kai chuckled, meeting Mitien's gaze without fear. Why should I? A monster race master actually dared to boast about kneeling? Yang Kai was amused by his arrogant tone. To be honest, he didn't want to cause trouble on this monster star. If Mitien had pretended not to see him, this matter would have passed and no one would have said anything. But now, conflict seemed inevitable, so Yang Kai naturally had to stand up and meet it head-on. Because you're a human. Mitien sneered, his momentum still full. Human beings must kneel before this young lord. As if feeling his anger, the two thunder flame flying lizards pulling the carriage also became manic and turned their heads. All of them cast their gazes towards Yang Kai's position. Their nostrils flared and their beastly eyes flashed with a bloodthirsty and cruel light. The faces of the people around Yang Kai changed greatly and without hesitation, they scattered. None of them dared to stay with Yang Kai anymore. They were afraid that the city gate would catch fire. The fish in the moat. In an instant, with Yang Kai's position, all the cultivators within a radius of him. Only him. Kai Yang became more and more conspicuous. Human, you better not be so presumptuous on Monster Emperor Star. Otherwise, you will pay a very heavy price. Mitien looked at Yang Kai indifferently, and even the two stunning women beside him glared at Yang Kai, as if Yang Kai was the most rude person in the world. Monster Star is my monster race's territory, you human. Ien, you should obediently tuck your tail between your legs. This young lord is not a stingy person, so since this is your first offense, I can pretend I didn't see you. If you kneel, this young lord will spare your life. Mitien stretched out a finger and nodded, putting on an air of arrogance. And if I don't? Yang Kai's eyes flashed with a cold light as he looked at Mitien with a smile. That's not up to you. Mitien coldly snorted. As soon as these words fell, the thunder flame flying lizard on the left suddenly opened its mouth wide and sent out a ball of flashing lightning towards Yang Kai with astonishing momentum. Feeling the overwhelming heat and the terrifying lethality contained in this ball of fire, many cultivators showed looks of shock. Although most of them had long heard of the terror of thunder flame flying lizards, they had never seen them with their own eyes. Today, their horizons had been broadened. No wonder it was said that even a second-order origin returning realm cultivator would flee upon seeing a thunder flame flying lizard. This ball of fire alone was not something an ordinary origin returning realm cultivator could resist. As the terrifying ball of fire approached, Yang Kai simply stood there, as if he was unaware of the danger. It wasn't until the ball of fire was right in front of him that he suddenly stretched out his hand and tried to grab it. Courting death. Many cultivator who saw this thought in their hearts. How could the attack of a thunder flame flying lizard be so easy to deal with? This little brat seemed a bit out of his mind, actually trying to resist it with his physical body. No wonder he dared to confront Mitien. But what happened next shocked everyone. When Yang Kai's big hand grabbed the ball of fire, he was not directly burned to ashes as everyone had expected. Instead, the ball of fire let out a light crackling sound as it touched his hand. An extremely mysterious fluctuation of power spread out and disappeared in a flash. The terrifying ball of fire was like a deflated balloon, shrinking at an extremely fast speed before finally disappearing. Yang Kai was completely unscathed. A series of gasps rang out. Mitien finally sat up straight slowly and pushed aside the woman who was half lying on his lap, a look of determination flashing across his eyes. Good, A second-order origin returning realm cultivator. Mitien grinned, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. No wonder you dared act so arrogantly, it turns out you have some skill. The moment Yang Kai attacked, he saw through Yang Kai's cultivation. A second-order origin returning realm master was not weak on Monster Emperor Star, not to mention that he was only a human. Monster Star was dominated by the monster race, and although it was rich in materials and world energy, it was rare for an origin returning realm master to emerge from the human race. Those with such aptitude had long been strangled in the cradle. It was impossible for the monster race to allow the human race to grow. They left the human race to survive in this crevice only because they fancied the various unique talents of the human race, so how could they allow the human race to have the opportunity to turn the tables? So, after realizing that Yang Kai was a second-order origin returning realm cultivator, Mitien immediately became interested and, standing on top of the beast carriage, waved his hand, and coldly snorted, "Kill her." The two ninth-order monster beast immediately went berserk, standing upright and opening their mouths, flames and lightning leaping from them. The city gate was in chaos as most of the cultivator hurriedly fled. Yang Kai laughed. Two beasts dare act presumptuously. With a flash of golden light, the two golden blood threads, under the control of Yang Kai, shot out like arrows towards the thunder flame flying lizards. Two pillars of fire sprayed out from the thunder flame flying lizards' mouths to meet the golden blood threads, but they were still unable to slow down the speed of the golden blood threads. The terrifying flames did not cause any damage to the golden blood threads at all. In the blink of an eye, the golden blood threads shot into the thunder flame flying lizards' mouths. In the next moment, the two ninth-order monster beast let out a roar similar to a mournful wail as their huge bodies swayed from side to side, smashing through the nearby houses and collapsing them. The golden blood threads that had rushed into their bellies, under the control of Yang Kai, began cutting into their bodies, causing unimaginable damage. Yang Kai did not remain idle either, his figure flickering as he leapt out and soon arrived at the head of the thunder flame flying lizards, throwing a punch towards the back of its head. It seemed like a light punch, but it was impossible to tell what kind of strength it contained. However, when the fist hit the thunder flame flying lizard's head, everyone clearly saw this huge monster beast's body tremble, as if its head had been hit by a 10,000-kilogram sledgehammer. First, it was forced back, then like a meteor, it smashed into the ground with a loud bang. The earth trembled. A large crater immediately appeared in the ground as the thunder flame flying lizard's head sank into it. Worthy of being a ninth-order monster beast, even with the golden blood threads wreaking havoc in its body and Yang Kai's punch to the back of its head, it still did not die. Instead, it became even more ferocious, roaring as it flapped its wide wings, trying to shake Yang Kai off of it. Turning around, Yang Kai arrived directly in front of the thunder flame flying lizard, stomped his feet on its lower jaw, and raised his hands high, stopping the thunder flame flying lizard's upper jaw from biting down. What is he doing? The onlookers were stunned as they looked at Yang Kai in shock. He assumed this posture as if he wanted to tear this ninth-order monster beast apart, but the small human body formed a strong contrast with the thunder flame flying lizard's bloody mouth. It was as if the thunder flame flying lizard could swallow this human into its stomach with just a light bite. Yang Kai's body was bent like a shrimp, his exposed muscles bulging as if they contained unimaginable strength. He and the thunder flame flying lizard were in a contest of strength. Everyone thought that Yang Kai had gone crazy. As everyone knew, in terms of strength, the demon clan was born with an unimaginable advantage, not to mention a ninth-rank demon beast like the thunder flame flying lizard. Its bite force was especially shocking to the extreme. Yang Kai took the initiative to approach the monster beast's mouth, challenging the thunder flame flying lizard's strongest and most tenacious body part. Is there something wrong with this guy's head? Many people had this thought in their minds. But the result made their eyes pop out of their sockets, and the result came so quickly. Just as they began to suspect that there was something wrong with Yang Kai's mind, his body, which was originally bent like a shrimp, suddenly straightened up. As if he had a violent strength that could penetrate the entire territory of the planet, the thunder flame flying lizard's bloody mouth couldn't stop Yang Kai's body from straightening. That huge mouth displayed an extremely exaggerated angle of bouncing, the upper jaw suddenly flew up, and the lower jaw fell down. Slash, blood filled the air, and the thunder flame flying lizard's head was split open. The muscles and tendons on the head were torn apart by a powerful force, exposing it to everyone's eyes. Everyone was stunned and looked at Yang Kai with a strange expression, as if they couldn't wrap their heads around it. If someone said that Yang Kai was a monster race expert known for his strength, then the scene in front of them could be explained. But he was just a human. How could a human have such terrifying strength? Boom! The thunder flame flying lizard's huge body fell to the ground, splashing a cloud of dust. Yang Kai stood in the air, bathed in blood, with a murderous aura, like a god of death from ancient times, making people shudder. He turned his head and looked at the other thunder flame flying lizard that was rushing towards him, grinning. Although the thunder flame flying lizard didn't transform into a human, it had more or less developed spiritual intelligence. Seeing that its companion had been killed by the human in an unimaginable way, how could it dare to approach? It let out a low roar and flapped its wings violently, trying to stop its pace. Chapter 1569. But it was already too late. Yang Kai shot forward like an arrow and arrived in front of the second thunder flame flying lizard, twisted his body, and dove straight into its open mouth. The next moment, an extremely terrifying sound came from the thunder flame flying lizard's body that made one's scalp tingle. Visible to the naked eye, circles of energy ripples spread from its neck all the way down, finally disappearing at its abdomen. Kong. A large hole appeared in the thunder flame flying lizard's abdomen and Yang Kai's figure leapt out from it. The second thunder flame flying lizard fell to the ground with a loud thud, no longer breathing. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. From Mitien ordering Yang Kai to Yang Kai killing the two thunder flame flying lizards, only 3 breaths had passed. This change happened so fast that the onlookers were unable to follow it. It wasn't until Yang Kai leapt out of the second thunder flame flying lizard's abdomen that they suddenly recovered. 2 powerful 9th order monster beasts had died just like that. Were these really thunder flame flying lizards? Could this be a weak monster beast that looked a bit like a thunder flame flying lizard? Everyone had such a thought in their hearts as they stared at Yang Kai in shock and confusion. That wild and violent fighting style dazzled everyone who saw it, and at the same time, they were extremely frightened. The monster race's battles were known for their barbaric and violent nature, something they had always prided themselves on. They felt that the battles of their own race were the real battles. As for humans, they were nothing more than fancy and impractical. But this human in front of them, who had just collided with young master Mitien, had perfectly demonstrated what it meant to be truly barbaric and violent in a way that was even more shocking. The audience fell silent. Even Mitien stared at Yang Kai solemnly. He finally realized. This human seemed to be not to be trifled with. Although the 2 thunder flame flying lizards used to pull his carriage had been domesticated since childhood and had lost some of their wild nature, making them incomparable to their native monster beast brethren, they were not so easily killed by a mere second-order origin returning realm cultivator. In front of this human, the 2 monster beasts pulling his carriage were unable to put up the slightest resistance and were both killed. Mitien asked himself if he could do such a thing. He released his divine sense suspiciously to investigate Yang Kai and found that he was indeed a second-order origin returning realm cultivator, not hiding anything at all. Mitien narrowed his eyes as a wicked light flashed across them. Inexplicably, the blood in his body suddenly started to boil. Monster race cultivators were all warlike, and although Mitien was the young lord of Thousand Eyes tribal lord, his bloodthirst and madness had not diminished because of his status. On the contrary, it was even better than the cultivator of the same race. He felt that Yang Kai would definitely be a good opponent. Perhaps it would allow him to go all out. He wanted to have a good fight. Catcher, there was a slight noise. All of a sudden, this sound spread from Mitien's body, almost imperceptibly spreading to every part of his body. They were all trembling in an extremely subtle manner. That was a sign of excitement. What happened? At that moment, several streaks of light flew over from afar, and before they even arrived, an angry shout rang out. Immediately, these streaks of light landed in front of the crowd, and after seeing the monster beast's corpse and the tense atmosphere in front of the city gate, they could not help being stunned. Master Ma Gena. The monster race cultivator who had been riding the wolf-shaped monster beast rushed over and saluted respectfully. Shimmering Moon City's city lord, the monster race master Ma Gena, was naturally a third-order origin returning realm cultivator. However, although he was the city lord of Shimmering Moon City, he knew nothing about what had happened here, not even the arrival of Mitien. It was not that Ma Gena was not well informed, but rather that Mitien simply did not play by the rules. Originally, the group of cultivators riding the wolf-shaped monster beast were only responsible for investigating Mitien's whereabouts and then reporting back. Naturally, the palace would send someone to meet him and bring him directly to the palace. How could they have known that Mitien would not allow the monster race cultivator to send a message at all? Instead, after meeting up with them, Mitien coerced them into bringing him directly to Shimmering Moon City. Obviously, Mitien also knew that he had a bad reputation and was not very popular wherever he went, so in order to prevent news of his arrival from leaking out and causing the residents of Shimmering Moon City to be prepared and hide his beautiful woman, he did not allow anyone to inform the city lord of Shimmering Moon City about his arrival. Instead, Mitien came here directly, intending to hunt for some curiosity before heading to Red Moon Tribal Lord's palace. It was a wonderful idea, but as soon as he entered the city, his authority was challenged by Yang Kai, and even the two ninth-order monster beast used to pull his carriage were killed. Young Lord Mitien? Ma Gena recognized Mitien's identity at a glance and his face could not help sinking. He did not welcome this Mitien from the bottom of his heart to stir up trouble in his city. Ha ha, Mitien greets Senior Ma Gena. Mitien came uninvited, I hope Senior will not take offense. Mitien smiled and cupped his fists, still as gentle and elegant as ever, his smile dazzling, infatuating countless women. What's going on here? Ma Gena's face sank as he looked at the monster race cultivator riding the wolf-shaped monster beast. Cold sweat dripped down the monster race cultivator's forehead as he knew that the city lord master was very unhappy, so he did not dare to conceal anything and quickly explained what had happened. Impudence. When he heard that Yang Kai had actually killed Mitien's carriage monster beast, Ma Gena immediately roared, his sharp eyes glaring towards Yang Kai. Although he didn't like Mitien messing around in his territory, a human daring to offend a noble of the monster race was definitely not something he could tolerate. In contrast, he didn't feel any disgust towards Mitien's unsolicited approach. However, who was this human? Being able to kill two ninth-order monster beasts in such a short time, his strength was not to be underestimated. Ma Gena looked at Yang Kai suspiciously, unable to remember where such a master had appeared in the human race. Yang Kai ignored him and instead silently probed for a moment before suddenly waving his hand and summoning two golden lights from the corpses of the two thunder flame flying lizards. These two lights then twirled around Yang Kai's fingertips as if they were sentient. Looking at these two golden and red golden blood threads, Yang Kai showed a satisfied smile. He had not been able to find a suitable monster beast to condense his blood beast secret technique from, but he had not expected to pick up two ready-made ones here, so after the conflict with Mitien, he had not hesitated to take action. The blood beast secret technique condensed from the soul and physique of two ninth-order monster beast was quite good. After Yang Kai took back the golden blood threads, the thunder flame flying lizards lying on the ground suddenly shriveled up like deflated balloons, all of their essence drained in an instant. Oh! Mitien's eyes lit up. What kind of secret technique is this? He seemed to be interested as he stared at the two golden blood threads between Yang Kai's fingers in amazement, not even blinking. Although he was a respected master of the monster race, Mitien was very interested in the various secret techniques of the human race. The human race was not comparable to the monster race in terms of physical strength, but when it came to creating secret techniques, the human race was far superior to the monster race. Both races had their own advantages. Mitien was well aware of this, so unlike many monster race masters, he did not reject or despise the secret techniques of the human race, nor did he consider them to be fancy and impractical. Instead, he was willing to calm down and study them. With the powerful physique of the monster race combined with the ever-changing secret techniques of the human race, Mitien believed that one day he would be able to create his own secret technique and walk further than his father, thousand-eyed tribal lord. He would stand at the top of the monster star and become the leader of the 10 tribal lords. This position had been vacant for a long time. Now, he was very interested in Yang Kai's golden blood thread secret technique. He had studied many of the human race's secret techniques, so his eyesight was quite good. At a glance, he could see that these 2 golden blood threads were extraordinary, and, after flying out of the thunder flame flying lizards, these 2 golden blood threads seemed to have gained sentient. Obtain it. This overbearing idea immediately flashed across Mitien's mind as he pointed to Yang Kai and said, "Human, hand over the thing in your hand to this young lord and this young lord will forget what happened before." Yang Kai raised his eyes and glanced at him, curled his lips into a smile, and with a thought, the 2 golden blood threads wrapped around his fingertips disappeared as he said concisely, "No." Mitien frowned and looked at him strangely for a moment before chuckling. "Human, is there something wrong with your head? Do you think that after killing this young lord's 2 chariot monster beast, you can let things go so easily? Do you think you can leave Shimmering Moon City alive? If you want to live, cooperate with this young lord obediently and I can let you go. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." As he spoke, Shimmering Moon City's city lord Ma Gena and the several origin returning realm masters around him also glared at Yang Kai, ready to teach him a lesson at any moment. When it came to his attitude towards Yang Kai, Ma Gena unconditionally stood on Mitien's side. As such, he glared at Yang Kai and coldly said, "Boy, don't fail to appreciate kindness. In my Shimmering Moon City, there is no place for you to act presumptuously." Presumptuous? Yang Kai squinted at him, not giving him the slightest bit of face as he shouted aggressively, "So what if I'm presumptuous? Are you going to bite me? Arrogant." Ma Gena flew into a rage. He had lived for so many years, but he had never seen such an arrogant human before. Throughout Monster Star, which human did not know the immensity of heaven and earth like this boy? Even the most powerful human would have to treat the monster race with respect, let alone a city lord like him. Ma Gena glanced over at Mitien just as Mitien happened to be looking over at him. The 2 men's eyes met and both understood what the other was thinking. They had to join forces to kill or capture this human, otherwise, the monster race would lose all face. But before they could act though, a strange energy fluctuation suddenly appeared somewhere in Shimmering Moon City. Mitien and Ma Gena were both 3rd-order origin returning realm masters, so they naturally noticed it immediately. What puzzled them though was that they were unable to determine what was causing this energy fluctuation. Yang Kai's expression became solemn as he glanced in the direction of the energy fluctuation, frowned for a moment, but soon, as if thinking of something, his figure flickered and he rushed over. His speed was incredibly fast. Chapter 1570. Stop right there. Ma Gena was furious, and the moment Yang Kai moved, he fiercely threw out a punch to intercept Yang Kai's advance. With a flash of purple light, Yang Kai summoned his purple shield and easily blocked this blow. Without stopping, Yang Kai hurriedly rushed over to the other side. He had a bad feeling about this, so how could he waste time here? His figure flickered and a burst of space force erupted from his body, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Ma Gena and Mitien were stunned on the spot. They did not see how Yang Kai had left just now. Their eyes and divine sense had clearly been locked onto him, but the other party had easily escaped. The 2 monster race masters couldn't help wearing dignified expressions as they exchanged a glance again before rushing towards the source of this energy. They also wanted to know what was going on over there and why such strange energy fluctuations were being emitted. Shimmering Moon City, in front of a certain inn, many cultivators had gathered. These cultivators were attracted by the strangeness of this place, both from the human race and the monster race. At this moment, all of them were standing on the street in front of the inn, pointing and whispering to one another. When Yang Kai arrived, he glanced up at the sky and showed a helpless and bitter smile. That ominous feeling of his had indeed been verified. The owner of the inn was also standing in front of the inn, his waist hunched and his hands tucked into his sleeves. Like most people, he was looking up at the sky with a complicated expression, his eyes flashing as if he was trying to discern something. When Yang Kai arrived, he immediately noticed this. Quickly waving to Yang Kai, he called out, "Young man, come here." Yang Kai glanced at him before rushing over and saying apologetically, "Old sir, I'm afraid I've caused you some trouble." The old man chuckled and shook his head. "This old man's trouble is nothing, but I'm afraid your troubles are much bigger." Saying so, he glanced faintly at City Lord Ma Jian'e and Mitien, the two monster race masters who had just arrived, the corners of his mouth twitching slightly as he added, "It seems that your troubles aren't limited to the one in the inn." Hee hee. Yang Kai laughed dryly, not knowing what to say. If it was only Ma Jian'e and Mitien who were targeting him, Yang Kai was not afraid at all. At most, he could just use his space secret technique and take his little senior sister away. Monster Star was so big, how could there not be a place for them to hide? Furthermore, below the Origin King realm, he was not afraid of anyone. If a fight really broke out, Yang Kai dared to turn the entire shimmering moon city upside down. But now, the phenomenon before his eyes gave him an extreme headache. After arriving here, he could tell at a glance that this strange phenomenon was caused by his little senior sister. Xia Ningchang had been staying in the inn for the past few days, living in seclusion. He had been using all kinds of materials to refine elixirs to improve his cultivation. Yang Kai did not disturb her. Who would have thought that in this kind of place, little senior sister would actually be able to concoct such an amazing pill? Yang Kai had experienced this before, so he could tell that this phenomenon was clearly a sign of a pill-forming pill cloud. When he was on Rainfall Star, he had refined a fire attribute spirit pill that formed pill clouds and used it to treat Shui Yu who had been injured by the profound yin sunflower water. This scene was very similar to the one in front of him. Yang Kai had only ever produced a single spirit pill that had formed pill clouds so far. He also knew that pill clouds were something that could only be encountered by chance. Unlike pill veins, with his alchemy skills, he could more or less control the formation of pill veins. But how to make a pill form pill clouds, he had no clue at all. His little senior sister had a special physique and was a heavenly talent, so it was natural that she could reach this step. But this was Monster Star, shimmering moon city. Once a spirit pill appeared, it would definitely attract the attention of countless masters, especially Ma Jian'e and Mitien, who had just had a conflict with Yang Kai. They would definitely not let go of this spirit pill. Most likely, they would not let go of Xia Ningchang. An alchemist who could refine pill clouds was obviously a peak heavenly talent, worthy of the title of Grandmaster. How could the monster race let go of such a heaven-defying talent? Yang Kai's eyes flashed as all kinds of thoughts flashed through his mind, weighing the pros and cons of this situation. It was impossible for him to stop Xia Ningchang now. Alchemy was about comprehension and opportunity, and his little senior sister being able to take this step would have a great impact on her growth. Stopping her now would be tantamount to ruining her comprehension and perhaps even affect her future achievements. Yang Kai could only let her refine this spirit pill. It looks like it's going to be really troublesome. Making up his mind, Yang Kai's eyes became as sharp as the edge of a blade. Ma Jian'e and Mitien both stared at the sky in a daze. Directly above the inn, a large amount of world energy was gathering, as if attracted by something, forming a small vortex visible to the naked eye. As this vortex rotated, it absorbed even more world energy to strengthen itself. Senior Ma Jian'e, what is this? Is this the birth of a rare treasure? Although Mitien had good eyesight, he had never seen the birth of a pill cloud, so he was confused about this and could only ask the slightly older Ma Jian'e. Ma Jian'e frowned as he stared at the sky, trying to determine what was causing this phenomenon, but after hearing this question, he slowly shook his head and said, "This city lord is unable to determine. Even senior can't recognize it." Mitien was surprised. The world is big and full of strange things, so it's not surprising that this city lord is unable to recognize it. "En, which of you can determine what caused this phenomenon?" Ma Jian'e turned to the other origin returning realm masters and asked. Everyone shook their heads, indicating that they had never seen or heard of such a phenomenon before. Interesting, Mitien smiled brightly. His smile was very charming, always just enough to reveal his flawless white teeth. Combined with his somewhat devilish appearance, he was extremely attractive, causing many women who were secretly paying attention to him to be dazzled. From the looks of it, this doesn't look like someone is breaking through or cultivating a secret technique, nor does it look like a rare treasure is about to appear, so what could be the cause? If you want to know, it's very simple, just take a look and you'll understand. A second-order origin returning realm master next to Margena shouted as he unscrupulously released his divine sense to probe the inn. But before he could extend his divine sense into the inn, he suddenly noticed a dangerous aura approaching him. The divine sense he extended out transmitted back a scalding hot aura, as if he was being burned by a raging fire. A scream rang out as this monster racemaster could not help retreating a few steps, clutching his head as his face turned pale. In an instant, all the cultivators' eyes turned towards Yang Kai. They all felt that it was Yang Kai who had just released his divine sense that forced back their fellow monster racemaster and injured him. Margena's face was gloomy while Mitien's smile was playful. This is just a warning, if anyone dares to spy on me again, don't blame me for being impolite. Yang Kai stood in front of everyone and said in a cold voice. Right now, it was a critical moment for his little senior sister's alchemy, and even he did not dare to disturb her, so how could he allow this monster race cultivator to spy on them with their divine senses? What if they interfered with Xia Ningchang's alchemy? Both of them were second-order origin returning realm cultivators, but in a battle of divine senses, the monster race cultivators seemed to be unable to withstand a single blow, causing Margena and Mitien, who had attached great importance to Yang Kai, to become even more solemn. Little brat. Margena's deep voice rang out, are you determined to oppose my monster race? Courageous, but a little overconfident, Mitien chuckled lightly and said sarcastically. Yang Kai did not speak and simply stared at them coldly. No one dared to doubt Yang Kai's determination. Those monster race masters who were still a little restless and wanted to release their divine senses to spy on them could not help but put aside such thoughts at this moment as fear filled their eyes. Obviously, this human did not have a burly body comparable to the monster race, but just by standing there, he made all the monster race masters feel like they were facing a towering mountain, blocking all the wind and rain for the inn behind him. Inexplicably, while some monster race masters feared Yang Kai, they also felt a trace of admiration for him. Not every human had the courage to face the covetous eyes of so many monster race masters without batting an eyelid. Good, good, good. Little brat, you've repeatedly not put this city lord in your eyes, not even putting my monster race in your eyes, and even contradicting young master Mitien. Today, this place will be your burial ground, I hope you're mentally prepared. Margena could no longer bear it. He was already very dissatisfied with Yang Kai, and now that Yang Kai's attitude was so harsh, how could he compromise? He was only prepared to kill this human brat first. As for what mysteries were hidden in this inn, it would not be too late to investigate them later. Little brat, your finish. Mitien smiled gloatingly at Yang Kai, murderous intent flashing across his eyes. He seemed to be acting free and easy, but Yang Kai had killed the 2 ninth-order monster beast he used to pull his carriage. How could he tolerate such a thing? Now, he could join forces with Margena. All the origin returning realm masters secretly pushed the energy in their bodies, preparing to attack Yang Kai at any time. You want to take my life? Let's see if you have the ability. Yang Kai coldly snorted as an invisible force suddenly spread out from him. All the cultivator surrounded by this force couldn't help feeling as if they had fallen into a swamp, their Saint Chi unable to circulate properly and their meridians blocked. Sure. As soon as Yang Kai released his sure, Margena couldn't help paling. He was shocked to discover that even he was somewhat inferior to this human youth in terms of sure. How was this possible? He was a third-order origin returning realm cultivator while the other party was only a second-order. Although there was only a single minor realm difference, this minor realm should be a world of difference, so how could this boy's should be stronger than his? The monster race cultivator had already displayed their sure to resist Yang Kai, but even so, they were still completely unable to erase the invisible force around them. Not only that, but every monster race cultivator noticed that there seemed to be some special power mixed in the sure of this human youth. This power made them feel as if they had fallen into an ice cellar and were as silent as cicadas in winter. It was as if as long as they moved, they would die on the spot in the next moment. Chapter 1571. Yang Kai's Sha was mixed with his comprehension of the Tao of space, making it one of his biggest cards. Unless he was forced to use it, he would not reveal it, but the monster race masters who were enveloped by his Sha could still feel the strange murderous intent radiating from it. Ma Gena's face went pale while Mitian's expression was equally dignified. The two monster race masters hadn't expected that Yang Kai's attainments in Sha would be so deep, and thinking about the terrifying combat power and spiritual energy this human had just displayed, they didn't dare act rashly for a while. On the other hand, the innkeeper's originally drooping eyes suddenly opened and his eyes lit up as he stared at Yang Kai in surprise. Immediately, he raised his head again and carefully observed the phenomenon in the sky, his nose twitching slightly. Soon, as if he had discovered something, an astonishing light flashed across his eyes. "Stop!" he shouted in a low voice. "Everyone, please remain calm." Yang Kai glanced over at him with a strange expression. Ma Gena frowned as a look of displeasure flashed across his face. He was the city lord of Shimmering Moon City. When had it been someone else's turn to point fingers at him? What's more, this old man was just an innkeeper. Sweeping the old man with his divine sense, Ma Gena found that he didn't have the slightest trace of cultivation, causing him to feel even more disgruntled. "Old man, there's no place for you to speak here, step aside." Mitian coldly snorted. "Ha ha." The innkeeper didn't show the slightest fear, simply chuckling as he shot a meaningful glance towards Mitian. Mitian frowned, secretly feeling that something was wrong. Looking at the innkeeper suspiciously, he hesitated for a moment before asking, "Has this young lord seen you somewhere before? Why do I feel like you're somewhat familiar?" Being able to see through such clues, worthy of Master Chen Yang's young lord, "Your vision is truly extraordinary," the innkeeper praised, using the tone of an elder to praise a junior. This caused Mitian's face to sink as he shouted, "Who the hell are you?" Ma Gena was also stunned. He had never thought that he would be the owner of an unknown inn in his city. He seemed to have a powerful background. If it weren't for his status, how could he dare speak to Mitian like this? Yang Kai looked at this, then looked at that, his eyes darting back and forth. Suddenly, he grinned. After being disturbed by the innkeeper, the situation changed. Everyone's attention was diverted away from him. Of course, this was something he was happy to see. However, he was also very curious about the background of this tavern owner. He clearly did not have any energy fluctuations on his body. However, being able to speak in front of Ma Gena and Mitian without fear was not something an ordinary monster race cultivator could achieve. The old man was still smiling faintly. Under everyone's watchful eyes, his body suddenly underwent a shocking transformation. His originally stooped waist slowly straightened, and his short body also grew taller. His dry and wrinkled skin disappeared, and in its place was a rosy and healthy complexion. The wrinkles on his face were also smoothed out. In that instant, he seemed to have become dozens of years younger. From an old man, he had become a middle-aged man with an extraordinary bearing. Not only that, as his physique changed, his aura also underwent a drastic change. Originally, anyone who swept this old man with their divine sense would not be able to detect any energy fluctuations and would think he was a monster race cultivator who had never cultivated before. But at this moment, powerful energy fluctuations were pulsing from his body, and these fluctuations were gradually increasing until they reached the peak of the third-order origin returning rel. Compared to Ma Gena and Mitian, this old man was clearly stronger. Yang Kai was stunned as he stared at the innkeeper in a daze, almost unable to believe his eyes. Ma Gena and Mitian were also stunned, never having expected that there would be someone in this world who could hide themselves so deeply. If the innkeeper had not taken the initiative to expose himself, no one present would have been able to discover his depths. Your master he? Ma Gena carefully looked at the face of the innkeeper again and suddenly called out in shock. After the innkeeper changed his appearance, Ma Gena immediately recognized him. his voice trembling as a look of panic appeared on his face. What? His master B.A. he? It can't be. Didn't you say that Sir B.A. he was killed by the Lord himself? How is he still alive? Yes, he is Master B.A. he. 200 years ago, when I went to visit the tribal master's residence with the city lord's master, I met him once. At that time, he was the first general under the tribal lord's command. TSK, how could it be Master B.A. he? This is really interesting. All kinds of shouts and exclamations came from all around, and when Yang Kai heard this, his expression became strange. He could faintly see that this innkeeper's reputation was not small, as even Ma Gena had some scruples and respect towards him. Who was this guy? Why did others say that he was the first general under Red Moon Tribal Lord and that he had been killed by Red Moon Tribal Lord? What kind of situation was this? Yang Kai was confused and couldn't figure it out. So, it's Senior B.A. he. Mi Tien took a deep breath. No wonder you looked so familiar. Mi Tien greets Senior B.A. he. Even though they were all third-order origin returning realm masters, B.A. his seniority was higher than any of the monster race masters present. Even though Mi Tien was the young lord of Thousand Eyes tribal lord, he did not dare neglect etiquette. Haha, young Lord Mi Tien need not be so polite. You are also a rising star of my monster race and have a great chance of breaking through to the origin king realm in the future, B.A. he praised. Mi Tien smiled lightly and said confidently, Senior B.A. he is mistaken. This young lord does not have a great chance, but will definitely break through. It's only a matter of time. This brat is quite arrogant. Yang Kai glanced at him and snickered in his heart. However, it was undeniable that he did have the capital to act so arrogantly. B.A. he gently nodded, good, then I wish you all the best. Master B.A. he. Ma Gena's forehead oozed some cold sweat as he glanced at this legendary figure who had disappeared for almost 200 years before turning his attention to the phenomenon in the sky and asking, what's going on here? What's going on? B.A. he pondered for a moment before saying, I don't know what's going on, but for now, please don't be impatient and don't disturb what's going on inside. This old master is the owner of this inn and has a responsibility to protect the safety of the guests staying here. Please give this old master some face. En. Since Master B.A. he says so, we'll wait, Ma Gena nodded. In front of B.A. he really didn't dare act presumptuously. What about this human? Mi Tien suddenly turned to Yang Kai with a sneer on his face. Senior B.A. he, are you also going to protect his safety? Of course, this young man is also my guest, B.A. he replied matter-of-factly. Haha, then Mi Tien will give Senior some face, but it's only limited to Senior. This human killed 2 of my monster beast pulling my carriage, so this account will be settled sooner or later. Mi Tien chuckled as he turned an aggressive look towards Yang Kai, provoking him, human, don't let this young lord find an opportunity, otherwise. Yang Kai curled his lips, not caring about this threat. Right now, for him, making sure no one disturbed Xia Ningchang was his top priority. Everything else was secondary. Calming down such a storm, no matter who it was something he was looking forward to. But, what exactly did this B.A. he want to do? Yang Kai's playful eyes swept over the owner of the inn. From the mouths of the onlookers just now, he vaguely heard some secrets and knew that this B.A. he had been hiding his identity for the past 200 years, but now he suddenly took the initiative to expose his identity and even tried to protect him and Xia Ningchang. What was he trying to do? Yang Kai didn't believe that he was really just trying to protect his guest. The older he got, the wiser he became, the more noble he became. Hey, what's this smell? Suddenly, a cry of surprise came from the crowd. It smells so good, it seems to be the smell of a spirit pill. Has a top-grade spirit pill appeared? Could it be that this phenomenon was caused by alchemy? These words stirred up 1,000 waves as the crowd began to shout. The phenomenon caused by Xia Ningchang's spirit pill was extremely conspicuous and grand. In the early stages, not many people could distinguish it, even masters like Ma Gena and Mi Tien, who had extensive knowledge and experience, were able to distinguish it, but as time passed and the rich medicinal fragrance began to fill the air, the secret hidden in the inn could no longer be concealed. As the fragrance continued to spread, Almost everyone cast fiery gazes towards the inn. They had already identified that this fragrance was coming from this seemingly simple inn. Almost every cultivator's face showed a look of intoxication and comfort. Just smelling this medicinal fragrance was enough to make one feel enlightened. If they were to eat this pill, what effect would it have? What kind of spirit pill could produce such a fragrance and cause such a phenomenon? The eyes of many cultivator gradually became fiery and greedy. If it weren't for he, Gena, and the other masters standing in front of the inn, it was likely this small inn would have been crushed by the crazy flow of people. Young Lord Mitien. After determining that the phenomenon in front of them was indeed caused by alchemy, Gena quietly turned to Mitien and sent him a divine sense message. That old dog he seems to want to monopolize this spirit pill. No wonder after hiding for more than 200 years, he didn't hesitate to expose his identity today. If that's the case, this spirit pill must be extraordinary, but I don't know which human alchemist is refining it, Mitien replied coldly. Then if he wants to monopolize it, that will depend on whether he has the ability. 200 years ago, he and Red Moon Tribal Lord had a very unpleasant relationship. I don't know what kind of concealment technique he used, but he was actually able to escape from Lord Red Moon's clutches. Since he has been exposed today, his good days have come to an end. I think even if we kill him, Lord Red Moon won't blame us. Good, we'll listen to young Lord Mitien, Gena replied. Although he didn't like Mitien's style very much, it was undeniable that joining forces with him now was the best choice. After all, his reputation was too strong, and if he was alone, he wouldn't have the courage to oppose he. As for obtaining the spirit pill, this was Shimmering Moon City, his territory, so how could Mitien compete with him? Chapter 1572. The two monster race masters secretly communicated with each other and decided to act as soon as the pill was 10% complete. No matter what, they had to obtain this spirit pill. How could a spirit pill that even a master like he coveted be lacking? Perhaps this spirit pill would allow one to break through to the third order origin returning realm in one fell swoop and become an origin king. After all, he had reached the third order origin returning realm more than 200 years ago and was the one with the greatest potential to become a tribal lord on Monster Star. Just as Gena and Mitien were secretly communicating with each other, he glanced over at them and a faint smile appeared on his face. Young man, don't you want to go to the palace to see your old friends? He suddenly sent a message to young Kai. Senior. Does Senior he have any advice for me? Young Kai looked at him suspiciously, not knowing why the other party had suddenly brought this up. I wouldn't dare give advice, but this old master does have a way to ensure you enter the palace safely. Really? Young Kai's eyes lit up. However, this method is a bit risky. If you believe this old master will do as he says, but if you don't, just pretend this old master didn't say anything. Haha, this junior and senior have only met by chance, so there's no need to mention whether I believe you or not. Young Kai was not a greenhorn, so how could he easily trust someone he was not familiar with? You should have such concerns, but really, this method also carries a certain amount of risk for this old master. If you can join forces with this old master can promise. As long as I am alive, nothing will happen to you. Young Kai frowned slightly and pondered for a moment before asking, Senior, can you explain it in detail? No problem. He was very straightforward and didn't beat around the bush, bluntly explaining his plan to young Kai. After young Kai listened, his brow furrowed. There are indeed some risks, but Senior's calculations are quite good. Once you do this, how can my senior sister and junior brother still have any freedom? So you refuse? He asked with some disappointment. No. I agreed. Senior, feel free to do as you please, young Kai grinned. He looked at him in surprise. He didn't expect young Kai to be so daring. Speaking of which, he didn't have to worry about his plan failing. He could guarantee that he would be able to send young Kai into the Red Moon Tribal Lord's palace. And they were valued. However, this method was different for young Kai and the woman in the inn. It might not be a good thing. He was already mentally prepared to be rejected. Yang Kai agreed. He looked at Yang Kai with a strange expression, secretly feeling that this human was simply too fearless, his courage far too great. However, since he had already agreed, there was nothing for him to worry about. Thinking so, he smiled slightly and said, "This spirit pill hasn't even been refined yet, but the aura it is emitting is already so grand. It must be an excellent pill, and judging from the richness of this fragrance, it is likely a pill above origin grade." "What Master he says is correct," Ma Gena agreed casually, not knowing what kind of trick he was trying to play. "Such a spirit pill, I'm afraid only the tribal master is qualified to possess it." "Ma Gena, don't you agree?" He looked at the other party with a smile. Ma Gena's brow furrowed even more as he faintly felt that something was wrong. The alchemist who refined this spirit pill must be a grandmaster-level character. Ma Gena nodded, an even more ominous feeling lingering in his heart as he suddenly understood what he was planning. The tribal master has always been interested in humans with special talents. Over the years, the palace has been recruiting talents, and now such a talent has appeared in Shimmering Moon City. Ma Gena, your luck is good. With your intelligence, you should know what to do next. He looked at Ma Gena with a smile. The latter's expression became solemn as he said loudly, "Many thanks for Master's guidance." Ma Gena understands. After this Grandmaster finishes refining this pill, Ma Gena will escort him to the palace. The tribal master will definitely appreciate him. If the tribal master is happy, you will also receive a lot of rewards. He chuckled. Hearing this, Ma Gena's eyes lit up and his smile became even wider, quickly cupping his fists and saying, "This is all thanks to the master's protection." After saying so, he quickly shouted, "Guards!" A group of monster race masters nodded. "Disperse all unrelated people and kill anyone who dares to approach within 500 meters of the inn. Do not disturb the Grandmaster's alchemy." Yes. Embark stood to the side, dumbfounded. The agreement he had secretly reached with Ma Gena just now had been broken by his words. Not only that, Ma Gena had directly sided with he and taken the initiative to provide manpower to protect the safety of the alchemist in the inn. He had no intention of monopolizing the pill at all. On the contrary, he seemed to be very interested in sending this alchemy grandmaster into the palace. The monster race was not good at alchemy, this was common knowledge. On the contrary, on Monster Star, the human race, who were weak, often produced masters who were proficient in alchemy. Kaiyu tribal lord gave humans space to live and strictly ordered them not to kill indiscriminately in the Red Moon territory because she wanted to protect those with special talents. For example, alchemists, artifact refiners, and the like. Every 10 years, Kaiyu territory would hold some alchemy and artifact refining competitions, in which the humans who stood out would be able to get rid of their lowly status and move into the palace to serve the tribal master. Kaiyu Palace had been recruiting talents over the years, and any alchemy grandmaster who could refine pills that could produce spirit phenomena would undoubtedly be favored by Kaiyu tribal lord. In other words, the grandmaster in the inn now had the label of Kaiyu tribal lord. Even if Embark's courage was big, in Kaiyu territory, he would not dare oppose the tribal master or the masters of the entire Red Moon territory. Right now, he was just here to watch the fun. Embark felt as disgusted as if he had eaten a dead fly. Looking at the many monster race masters from Shimmering Moon City surrounding the inn, Yang Kai chuckled. He was not afraid of entering the palace. Even if Kaiyu tribal lord was an origin king realm master, as long as he found an opportunity, with his attainments in the Tao of space, he could easily leave. Not to mention, he was also an alchemy grandmaster. His current alchemy skills were even better than Xia Ningchang's, and he could even refine Origin King grade pills. If this kind of skill were to be leaked, Kaiyu tribal lord would likely treat him as an honored guest. After all, Origin King grade alchemists were extremely rare. Throughout the entire star territory, such existences were as rare as phoenix feathers and Chilean horns. Monster Star and Monster Star had never appeared before. Young man, this old master can only help you this much. What you do inside the palace will depend on your own means, but this old master has to warn you in advance. If you want to live, you'd best not be too presumptuous inside the palace. He glanced at young Kai and quietly sent him a message. Young Kai did not comment and instead asked with great interest, Sir he did not hesitate to expose your identity this time, not just to help our senior sister, but what is your purpose? If it is convenient, can you tell me? Naturally, it's not just to help you. I just want to take this opportunity to return to the palace and ask for Master Tribal Lord's forgiveness. His face flashed a lonely look. Young Kai raised his brow as he suddenly remembered that the monster race onlookers had said that 200 years ago, he seemed to have been killed by Tribal Lord Master Tribal Lord himself. But for some reason, he was alive and well in this world. It seemed that there was indeed something between he and Kai Tribal Lord. At least, the rumors were wrong. He had not been killed by Kai Tribal Lord. Perhaps Kai had simply let him go. However, young Kai was too lazy to care about other people's affairs, so he simply nodded and said, if that's all, then we can be considered to be cooperating with each other. It's not a big deal, we each take what we need. In addition to returning to the palace, this old master actually has one more thing he wants to ask you for help with. He suddenly became embarrassed. What? I want to ask your senior sister to help me perform alchemy. He said bluntly before quickly adding, you can rest assured, I have gathered all the materials. As long as I can refine the pill, I will definitely reward you handsomely. We'll talk about this when the time comes. Depending on senior sister's mood, perhaps she will be willing to help you. Young Kai grinned. This little bastard, it's like his burning the bridge after crossing the river. He couldn't help rolling his eyes. The strange phenomenon in the sky became more and more powerful. As time passed, the vortex also covered the sky, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth that gathered together made people tremble in fear. This kind of phenomenon was no worse than the world energy baptism that would appear when a cultivator broke through to the origin returning realm, perhaps even more so. No matter who it was, no one would have thought that a trivial alchemy could cause such a phenomenon. As a result, everyone became even more curious, wanting to know what kind of pill the Grandmaster inside was refining. However, the rich medicinal fragrance made everyone judge that this alchemy was definitely not below origin grade. On Monster Star, there were more than a dozen origin grade alchemists, the most powerful of which was an origin grade high-rank alchemist. Although this alchemist was a human, no monster race cultivator dared to disrespect him on Monster Star. The human race had a very low status on this cultivation star, but those with real talent were valued, resulting in a serious polarization. All of this was thanks to the wise leadership of Red Moon Tribal Lord. If it weren't for her efforts to recruit talented humans, Red Moon Territory would not have become so powerful. Among the 10 largest territories on Monster Star, Red Moon Territory definitely ranked in the top 3. One had to know that 1,000 years ago, Red Moon Territory was the weakest territory on Monster Star. For such a transformation to occur in just 1,000 years, Red Moon Territory's contribution could not be ignored. It was conceivable that in the future, Red Moon Territory would become the most powerful territory on Monster Star. Unlike the surrounding monster race cultivators, young Kai was also an alchemist, so he could judge the progress of his little senior sister from the world energy phenomenon and medicinal fragrance. He was always paying attention to the changes in the world energy phenomenon and medicinal fragrance, secretly feeling nervous for Xia Ningchang. Chapter 1573. This was the first time Xia Ningchang had refined a spirit pill with pill clouds. If she succeeded, her alchemy skills would grow by leaps and bounds. With her special constitution, the insights she gained from this alchemy would become a beacon of light that would illuminate her progress on the martial Tao and heavenly way. The insights and experience gained from this alchemy were of great significance to little senior sister. Yang Kai paid more attention to this than anyone else, so his divine sense was constantly covering the inn to prevent anyone from plotting against it. Fortunately, there were masters like He and Ma Gena protecting them, as well as many monster race origin returning realm masters, so no one dared to act rashly. This medicinal fragrance seems to have become much stronger. Is the pill about to be formed? TSK. What kind of spirit pill is this? Why do I feel like my bottleneck has loosened just by smelling its medicinal fragrance? The surrounding cultivator were still discussing this matter, but no one could figure out what kind of spirit pill it was. At that moment though, the rotating vortex in the sky suddenly changed again, as if an inexplicable suction force was coming from the inn, madly sucking in the condensed world energy. The huge vortex also spun and took the shape of an inverted funnel as it poured down. In just half a cup of tea's time, the vortex disappeared and the world energy that had been gathered disappeared without a trace. Even the medicinal fragrance that had been lingering at the tip of everyone's nose suddenly faded. Inside the inn, there was silence. Did it succeed? Or did it fail? Countless cultivator craned their necks to look around, wanting to know the final result of the alchemy grandmaster in the inn. They didn't know whether the grandmaster was old or young, male or female. But inexplicably, they were looking forward to this alchemy and feeling nervous. Not only the ordinary cultivator, but Ma Gena, Ba He, and Mi Tien were also like this. Even if they appeared calm, the look in their eyes was obvious. Only Yang Kai, after silently perceiving for a moment. A slight smile appeared on his face. Success. With little senior sister's talent in alchemy, it was only natural that she would be able to refine such a spirit pill without any distractions, but she should be immersed in her comprehension and harvest right now, so it would take some time. Yang Kai didn't say anything and simply stood guard. They waited at the side. A day passed. 2 days passed. Many cultivator spectators could not bear the loneliness. Without waiting for the result, they all quietly scattered. Only the experts who were related to this matter remained. He was still waiting. He glanced at Yang Kai from time to time, as if he wanted to get some clues or answers from him, but to his disappointment, Yang Kai's expression was impeccable. He couldn't infer anything and could only wait patiently. 5 days passed in the blink of an eye. There was still no movement in the inn. No matter who it was, they would be impatient after waiting for so long. Enough! Mi Tien shouted, it seems that the alchemist in the inn has failed and doesn't dare to come out. Senior Ma Gena, give the order to arrest him. Arrest? Who are you arresting? Yang Kai squinted at him and shouted fiercely, who dares to arrest me? Mi Tien sneered, human, what kind of place do you think this is? Do you think you have the right to order around here? Senior Ma Gena, this person is acting so presumptuous and doesn't put you in his eyes at all. If you don't take action, this young lord will. This is a good opportunity to settle our previous grievances. Ma Gena frowned, not knowing what to do, so he couldn't help casting an inquiring look to Ba He. Ba He said lightly, even if this grandmaster failed in his refinement this time, being able to create such a big commotion in alchemy shows that he is an extraordinary person. Tribal master will welcome such talents. Hearing what he said, Ma Gena regained his senses and nodded repeatedly. Master Ba He is right. This city lord has never seen anyone who can create such a big commotion in alchemy. This person must be presented to tribal master unscathed. While they were talking, the sound of light footsteps suddenly came from the inn. Everyone's expression changed as they turned their eyes towards this sound. Yang Kai greeted this newcomer with a smile and quickly walked over. A moment later, a beautiful figure walked out of the inn. Her figure was graceful, her waist was flawless, her jade fingers were slender and white, and the skin on the back of her hand seemed so delicate that it could be broken at any moment. Mi Tien was originally very hostile towards the so-called grandmaster in the inn and couldn't wait to kill him, but when he saw this figure, his expression suddenly froze and his eyes began to shine brightly. As the young lord of Thousand Eyes tribal lord, his status was naturally respected, and because he cultivated a demonic art, Mi Tien had no shortage of women around him, let alone beautiful women. He could wantonly pick the beauties of both the human and monster races. However, when he saw this figure, his eyes lit up. Just looking at this figure made Mi Tien want to know what this woman looked like. Looking up, Mi Tien couldn't help frowning. This woman was wearing a black veil, making it impossible for him to see her true appearance, but her clear and flawless eyes were like the purest gems in the world, instantly attracting his attention. This woman's white forehead was adorned with a sapphire, making her appear even more beautiful. Clean. This was Tian's first impression of Xia Ningqiang. She was as clean as a mountain stream, causing Tian's heart to stir a little, wishing he could sully this purity to satisfy his heart's desire to profane her. After re-examining her, Tian suddenly found that the black veil covering her face was no longer so irksome and instead seemed to have sublimated her flawless appearance to a supreme level. If not for this veil, without this haze, this pure beauty would have been discounted. It was precisely because of this layer of haze that people were more interested in her. Tian suddenly became interested and a faint smile appeared at the corners of his mouth as a wicked light flashed across his eyes. Junior brother, I'm sorry. Xia Ningqiang looked a little embarrassed and apologized softly. While she was performing alchemy, she had noticed some movement outside the inn. It was just that she had been distracted and hadn't been able to investigate carefully, so it wasn't until the end of her alchemy that she realized what had happened. Creating such a big scene while performing alchemy would definitely attract a lot of attention. Now that there were so many people outside, including Yang Kai, she immediately understood how much pressure Yang Kai had endured for her during the alchemy process. What are you talking about? Thanks to senior sister's blessings, we can quickly enter the palace, Yang Kai grinned. He took her little hand, bringing her over to his side. The corners of Tian's eyes twitched as he glared at Yang Kai with even more hatred. It was as if his exclusive property had been touched. A woman. Ma Gena was dumbfounded. The moment Xia Ningqiang appeared, the countless monster race cultivator were dumbfounded. They never expected that the alchemy grandmaster in the inn would be a woman. And such a beautiful and pure woman at that. So young. In their imaginations. To be called a grandmaster. A person who could create such a scene in alchemy would definitely be an old man, or at the very least, an elderly person. How could they have known that reality would be so different from their imagination? Ma Gena could hardly believe his eyes and couldn't help turning his eyes to he. There's no need to doubt it, she is the grandmaster from the inn, she came with that human boy, he said lightly. Hearing this, Ma Gena was convinced and quickly stepped forward, cupped his fists, and said, Shimmering Moon City's City Lord Ma Gena greets Grandmaster. Grandmaster has worked hard. With a kind smile on his face, he appeared very cordial. Xia Ningqiang was a little flustered, but soon calmed down and gracefully returned the greeting, softly saying, City Lord is too polite. This young woman really does not deserve the title of Grandmaster. Her voice was clear and sweet, dazzling the countless monster race cultivators present. Such pure and moving beauty, such a beautiful voice, and proficient in alchemy, such a human, not to mention the difference in status between the human race and monster race, Ma Gena was willing to risk his life to pursue her. What a pity. Looking at Yang Kai holding Xia Ningqiang's hand, every monster race cultivator couldn't help glaring at him with jealousy, as if they couldn't wait to turn into thousands of sharp arrows and stab Yang Kai full of holes to vent their hatred. Xia Ningqiang's modesty made Ma Gena laugh heartily and quickly said, Right, this young lady, let me introduce you, this is my monster race's strongest master below the Origin King realm. The former first general under Red Moon Tribal Lord Master, he. Greetings, Senior he. Xia Ningqiang bowed again. He chuckled and said, Young lady need not be so polite, it is this his honor to witness such a grand event. He still had a request to make of Xia Ningqiang, so he didn't dare to put on too much airs. This is the young lord of Thousand Eyes Tribal Lord Master, young Master Tian. Ma Gena pointed to Tian and introduced him. Tian took a step forward and put on a gentle and polite appearance. Tian is fortunate to be able to meet young lady Tian's face. Xia Ningqiang gently nodded but didn't say anything. She didn't know why, but she felt that although this Tian's performance in front of her was perfect, she couldn't help feeling a sense of vigilance. Yang Kai sneered to the side. Young lady, you refined a spirit pill a few days ago, I wonder if that spirit pill. Ma Gena looked at Xia Ningqiang expectantly, wondering if she had succeeded. He also turned his attention to her. Xia Ningqiang frowned and turned to look at Yang Kai. She didn't want to show the results of her hard work to everyone. Take it out, whether we can enter the palace or not will depend on that spirit pill. Yang Kai whispered in her ear, this intimate gesture causing the little senior sister's tender body to tremble and her delicate earlobes to turn pink. However, since Yang Kai had said so, of course, she wouldn't hide anything anymore and summoned a jade bottle into her palm. Yang Kai picked up the jade bottle and didn't even look at it before throwing it directly to Ba He. The pill is here, senior can take a closer look. Ba His expression became serious as he carefully pinched the jade bottle, slowly opened it, and poured out a spirit pill. When the spirit pill came into view, Ba He couldn't help exclaiming, "Pill cloud." Chapter 1574. As soon as these words were spoken, they shook the heavens. Ma Gena's eyes almost popped out of their sockets as he stared at the spirit pill like a leech. On the surface of the spirit pill, there was a layer of cloud-like substance. It was as if there was a cloud, making the spirit pill appear dense with spirit chi. There was no doubt that it was indeed a pill cloud. Although none of the monster race experts present had ever seen a pill with a pill cloud, when they saw this pill, they could immediately determine that this cloud-like thing was indeed the legendary pill cloud. This was because the surrounding spiritual chi of heaven and earth was slowly and steadily gathering towards this spiritual pill. In time, the medicinal efficacies contained in this spirit pill would be astonishing, but of course, this would take a lot of time to accumulate. Even so, the value of such a spirit pill was already immeasurable. Master Ba He, is this an origin grade pill? Ma Gena leaned forward and asked in a trembling voice. Yes, it is indeed an origin grade pill. Ba He nodded solemnly, the shock on his face still not subsiding. The higher the grade of a pill, the more difficult it was for it to form pill veins and pill clouds. An excellent alchemist, if they were lucky enough, would have a slight chance of forming pill veins and pill clouds when refining some low-grade earth-grade or heaven-grade pills. However, Ba He had never heard of an alchemist who had formed pill veins when refining an origin-grade pill, let alone pill clouds, which were above pill veins. Even the most outstanding human race alchemist on Monster Star had not been able to accomplish such a feat. That person was an origin-grade high-rank alchemist. Just how high was this human woman's attainments in alchemy? Was it a coincidence or was she truly capable? She had actually caused an origin-grade pill to form pill clouds. Ba He was shocked to the extreme. It wasn't until this moment that he finally understood why the vision in the sky had appeared before. It wasn't because the grade of this spirit pill was high, but because of the formation of pill clouds. This was simply more precious than high-grade pills. It could be said that with this pill, this human woman was enough to show disdain for all of Monster Star. She fully deserved the title of Grandmaster. Ba He glanced over at Xia Ning Chang in awe. His expression was grave as he said to Magna, moreover. And this is a void condensing pill. Magna gasped. Although the origin condensing pill was only an origin grade low-rank pill, it was even more difficult to refine than some origin grade mid-rank pills. Because of this pill, it was for the cultivator to take when breaking through to the origin returning realm. It had the effect of helping one break through bottlenecks. With such an origin condensing pill, it could be said that any third-order Saint King could break through to the origin returning realm without any hindrance, without any fear of failure. In that case, this Grandmaster is at least an origin-grade mid-rank alchemist, right? Ma Gena asked quietly. I don't think so. Ba He didn't dare to be too presumptuous and carefully put the pill back into the jade bottle before carefully storing it in his space ring. No matter what, this Grandmaster must be safely escorted to the palace. You should know what to do. I know, Master Ba He can rest assured. Ma Gena nodded solemnly. Master Tribal Master had been recruiting special talents from the human race for many years, and this human woman was one of his favorites, so how could Ma Gena not do his best? After confirming the grade and value of the pill, Ma Gena's attitude towards Xia Ning Chang became more and more amiable, and he strongly invited Xia Ning Chang to rest in the City Lord's mansion. Xia Ning Chang felt wronged. The first spirit pill that she had refined with pill clouds had actually been taken away by a demon clan expert without a word. Yang Kai comforted her with a few words, which improved her mood a little. With Ma Gena's invitation, Yang Kai also knew what he was planning, so naturally, he wouldn't refuse and agreed on behalf of Xia Ningqiang. Only then did Ma Jiana understand that Yang Kai was the one who could really influence Xia Ningqiang. Out of respect for Xia Ningqiang, his attitude towards Yang Kai also changed. He no longer mentioned the chaos in Shimmering Moon City and instead warmly welcomed the senior sister and junior brother into the City Lord's mansion. Naturally, Mitien also entered the City Lord's mansion with them. As the young lord of Thousand Eyes tribal lord, he should have been the focus of attention wherever he went, but this time in Shimmering Moon City, his limelight was completely overshadowed by Xia Ningqiang. In this regard, Mitien had nothing to be jealous or angry about. After all, she was a beautiful woman who would become his sooner or later, so Mitien naturally didn't care too much. He took it for granted. They stayed in the City Lord's mansion for 2 days. During these 2 days, Yang Kai and Xia Ningqiang didn't leave the mansion and instead discussed the alchemic way and comprehended the true alchemy enlightenment scripture together in the room Ma Jiana had arranged for them. After refining an origin condensing pill that formed pill clouds, Xia Ningqiang's understanding of the alchemic way really improved by leaps and bounds, allowing Yang Kai to benefit from it. 2 days later, Ma Jiana personally came to invite Yang Kai and Xia Ningqiang, saying that everything was ready and that all they needed to do was wait for the two of them to set off for the tribal master's palace. Yang Kai and Xia Ningqiang didn't delay and quickly followed Ma Jiana out of the City Lord's mansion. Outside the City Lord's mansion, at least 30 origin returning realm masters were waiting, all of them wearing solemn expressions, as if a great battle was about to break out. In fact, they were only responsible for escorting Xia Ningqiang on the road. For a talent like Xia Ningqiang, Ma Jiana didn't dare to be careless and directly dispatched most of the masters in Shimmering Moon City. Accompanying him were masters like Ba He and Mitien, so it was likely that no one would dare provoke them at will. Ma Jiana was very good at his job and arranged a magnificent monster beast carriage for Xia Ningqiang. Although the two monster beast pulling it weren't as strong as Mitien's thunder flame flying lizard, they were still 8th order monsters. At Ma Jiana's request, Xia Ningqiang boarded the carriage with some embarrassment. At the front was a team of a dozen or so wolf-riding cultivators, followed by a dozen or so origin returning realm masters. Many masters were hidden nearby, responsible for dispersing idle passers-by. The group left Shimmering Moon City in a grand and imposing manner. Although with the cultivation of these people, it would have been faster to use star shuttles, Ma Jiana had still arranged such a grand procession in order to show the importance he attached to Xia Ningqiang. Yang Kai also basked in the glory and sat in the carriage with Xia Ningqiang. In fact, he didn't want to be so ostentatious, but his little senior sister seemed very helpless on her own. She had never been the center of attention like this before. With no other choice, Yang Kai could only accompany them. Mitien followed behind on his wolf-type monster beast, his eyes spitting fire. Only a man like him was worthy of such an outstanding woman. What was that human named Yang Kai? Although his combat strength was indeed good, he was still just a lowly human. The intimacy between the two of them on the beast carriage almost blinded Mitien's charming eyes. Just you wait, the debt of killing this young lord's two-carriage monster beast will be settled sooner or later. Mitien secretly swore to himself. This was Red Moon territory, so although the news that Shimmering Moon City's City Lord was escorting a human race alchemy grandmaster to the palace with a large number of origin returning realm masters had spread, no monster race cultivator in Red Moon territory dared to cause trouble. The speed of the carriage was extremely fast, almost comparable to flying. After only 5 days, a large group of majestic buildings appeared in front of them. There were many palaces and pavilions. Red Moon Tribal Lord's Palace was built on top of a large mountain, and from the bottom of the mountain all the way up, one could see neatly arranged palaces and passages of varying width. Half Moon Mountain, this was Red Moon Tribal Lord's Palace. It was also the holy land in the minds of all monster race cultivators in Red Moon territory. Their spiritual leader, Red Moon's master, lived here all year round. Yang Kai stood on the carriage and stared forward with a deep look in his eyes. Is elder sister Qing Luo inside? Xia Ningqiang asked softly. She should be, Yang Kai gently nodded. I wonder how she is now, She must be even more beautiful, Xia Ningchang murmured. She had seen Shan Qing Luo before, and although she had only seen her a few times back in the central capital, that seductive woman had still left a deep impression on her. Xia Ningchang had never seen such a seductive woman before, and even she couldn't help feeling a rush of excitement when she saw her. She seemed to be born to charm men, and Xia Ningchang wondered if there was any man in this world who could resist the dazzling charm of Shan Qing Luo. You'll know soon enough. Yang Kai patted the back of Xia Ningchang's hand, wrapped his arm around her waist, and lightly flew down from the carriage. Red Moon Master's palace is really extraordinary. This young lord has been looking forward to seeing it for a long time, and now his wish has finally been fulfilled. Tian didn't look at the intimacy between Yang Kai and Xia Ningchang. What the eye didn't see, the heart didn't grieve over as he sighed with emotion towards the palace. Let's go, we'll have to walk from here. Master Tribal Lord should have already received the news and sent someone to greet us. Ma Gena waved his hand, indicating for the other monster race cultivators to wait in place before leading Yang Kai and the others forward. Red Moon Tribal Lord had indeed received the news long ago and had sent someone to wait for them at the foot of the mountain. When Ma Gena and the others arrived, the monster race cultivator who was waiting here glanced at Xia Ningchang faintly and gently nodded, "Thank you for your hard work. Tribal Lord Master has ordered that Ma Gena has performed a meritorious service in escorting us and will be rewarded at a later date. Please go to the guest house to rest and wait." Ma Gena beamed with joy and hurriedly thanked him. The monster race cultivator nodded lightly before suddenly turning his eyes to Ba He and shouting, "Seize him!" Several monster race cultivators suddenly appeared and rushed towards Ba He. Ba He stood in place and showed no intention of resisting, allowing these monster race masters to tie him up and seal his Saint Qi. "After not seeing you for so long, Dongshe, you're still so ruthless." Ba He chuckled. "You still have the face to come back. This time, you won't walk out of Half Moon Mountain alive." The monster race cultivator named Dongshe coldly snorted. "Whether I can live or not depends on Tribal Lord Master. Dongshe, you and I have known each other for so many years, you should put in a few good words for me." "You're delusional." Dongshe squinted at him, "but you can rest assured, as long as Tribal Lord Master gives the order to kill you, I will personally send you on your way. You really are ruthless." Chapter 1575. Ba He was escorted away. This result stunned Yang Kai, but seeing the confident look on Ba He's face, Yang Kai estimated that his life would not be in any danger. Tian was also warmly welcomed to the side while Yang Kai and Xia Ningchang were led by a monster race woman to Half Moon Mountain, where they walked up a neat mountain path. The monster race woman walking in front of Yang Kai could not tell what kind of monster beast bloodline she possessed. She was petite, but her figure was extremely vigorous. Clearly, she was a first-order origin returning realm cultivator, and her two ears were not like those of a human but rather more like those of a cat, short and delicate. Yang Kai was not surprised by this sight and simply observed the scenery of Red Moon Territory's Holy Land. The surrounding world energy was very rich, so there should be a good earth vein at the foot of this Half Moon Mountain, otherwise, it would not be able to meet the needs of a large number of monster race cultivator. "Girl, are we going to see Kai Yu's master now?" After walking for a long time, Yang Kai asked. "Master has an important matter to attend to and will not see you for the time being, but someone else will receive you," the monster race woman in front replied lightly without turning her head. "Understood." Yang Kai nodded and did not ask any more questions. Although Xia Ningchang's performance in Shimmering Moon City was shocking enough, Kai Yu was still one of the 10 great tribal lords and an origin king realm master, so it was reasonable that she would not personally receive Xia Ningchang. However, she would not underestimate Xia Ningchang too much and would arrange for a capable person to receive him to show the importance she attached to Xia Ningchang. Yang Kai came here just to see Shan Qing Luo, the Dragon Lady. Whether he could meet with Kai Yu or not did not matter. Not seeing Kai Yu was actually better. After all, facing an origin king realm master, Yang Kai felt some pressure. Now that he heard this monster race woman say that someone else would receive him, it was exactly what he wanted. Following behind her, Yang Kai was already considering how to find Shan Qing Luo. In this kind of place, Yang Kai did not dare to use his divine sense too recklessly. If he really did so, it was very likely to cause trouble. After walking for about an hour, the Yarrow woman finally brought Yang Kai and his senior sister to a magnificent palace. She walked straight in. Inside the palace, a spacious and bright hall. Many demon cultivator lined up on both sides and looked at the entrance curiously. They had all received news that a human had refined a pill with pill clouds in Shimmering Moon City, and the city lord of Shimmering Moon City, Ma Gena, would be escorting her to the palace to serve the tribal lord. They were naturally very curious about what kind of human had such amazing alchemy skills. Above the demons, 2 Third Order Origin returning realm masters sat at the head of the table. The one on the left. He was tall and sturdy. It was like an iron tower with a ferocious and terrifying appearance. The one on the right was tall and slender. Her facial features were picturesque and seemed to contain a myriad of emotions. She was already a beautiful woman, but now, when she was set off by the ugly man on the left, she seemed even more otherworldly. Many of the monster race cultivator waiting below stole glances at this woman from time to time, but they quickly averted their eyes, as if they were afraid that if they stared at her for too long, they would fall into her charms. At this moment, the face of the tower-like man on the left was twitching slightly, as if he was very impatient, his buttocks swaying from side to side, a very uncomfortable look on his face. On the other hand, the woman on the right was frowning slightly, a look of suspicion on her face as her beautiful eyes stared out of the hall, as if she was trying to see through the barrier of space and into the distance. As time passed, the woman's expression began to change, gradually becoming one of joy and excitement. Her originally lazy posture gradually straightened and her tender body could not help trembling slightly. Her pair of beautiful eyes burst out with amazing splendor as she bit her red lips lightly, a look of anticipation appearing on her pretty face as a smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. The many monster race cultivators below took in this scene and felt their hearts beating violently in their chests as their mouths went dry. They'd never seen this lord reveal such a charming smile, and for a time, they were actually unable to resist the temptation brought about by that smile. They wished for nothing more than to immerse their minds within it and allow themselves to sink into oblivion. Even if they were bound by darkness and would never be able to see the light of day, they wouldn't hesitate. Many monster race cultivators sensed that something was wrong and hurriedly circulated their Saint Chi to attack their minds. They would rather harm themselves to regain their senses quickly. If they continued to sink, they were afraid that they would really be consigned to eternal damnation. What a disaster! The adopted daughter that Sir Monarch took in back then was indeed a troublemaker. Even the most famous woman from the Fox clan in the monster race was inferior to her in terms of seduction and charm. How could a mere human have such charm? Many monster race cultivators could not figure it out even after racking their brains. With such an existence, it was likely that even the most outstanding monster race disciple was not worthy of her. Why haven't you come yet? This uncle is worried to death. A thunderous explosion reverberated throughout the palace, completely waking the monster race cultivators from their stupor. They all looked up at the towering brawny man. The burly man felt as if he was sitting on pins and needles as he scratched his head with his thick hands before turning to the enchanting woman next to him and putting on a flattering look, an ugly smile on his face as he hummed, "Little sister, why don't you wait here while elder brother takes care of his own business first?" The enchanting woman glanced at him and chuckled, "Yu Xiong, this is adoptive mother's order. The one who has come is an alchemy grandmaster, so etiquette cannot be lacking. If you run away and adoptive mother finds out about this, little sister won't speak up for you." Ahem. Yu Xiong smiled awkwardly, thinking of the horror of his adoptive mother and could not help shivering, his tall and strong body suddenly seeming to shrink. "I was just saying, don't take it seriously, don't take it seriously." As soon as Yu Xiong's voice fell, a monster race woman walked in from the door, walked up to the main hall, and bowed gracefully, lightly opening her red lips and saying, "To master, the one has been brought. She's finally here." Yu Xiong coldly snorted, a look of displeasure filling his face. This uncle wants to see if this alchemy grandmaster really has any skill. If she's like the previous ones, just fishing for fame, don't blame this uncle for being impolite and tearing her apart. Because Red Moon valued humans with special talents. Therefore, in Red Moon territory, many humans dreamed of being appreciated by the Master Tribal Lord and living on Half Moon Mountain. However, some people clearly had no ability but bragged about how amazing they were in an attempt to make up the numbers. Without exception, all of these people were cruelly killed by Yu Xiong. As such, this time, Yu Xiong did not believe that there was really a human who could refine an origin-grade pill with pill clouds. Most likely, it was just Shimmering Moon City's city lord who wanted to profit from it. Quickly invite them in. The enchanting woman above suppressed the excitement in her heart. She called out in a trembling voice. Yes. The monster race woman nodded. Turning around and looking behind her, she beckoned. A man and a woman walked over side by side, the man's figure tall and sturdy. The woman was petite and dainty. The eyes of the two swept around the hall casually. Both of them then fixed on the enchanting woman. Yang Kai grinned. Xia Ning Chang also pursed her lips and chuckled. The enchanting woman's tender body trembled slightly as a layer of mist appeared in her beautiful eyes, but fortunately, her mental fortitude was quite good. In front of so many people, she did not lose her composure. Taking a few deep breaths, she calmed her excitement and raised her smooth chin slightly as her beautiful eyes stared at Yang Kai, a look of love and hatred flashing across them. No one noticed that her silver teeth were lightly clenched, making a slight noise. Master, they have arrived, the monster race woman reported respectfully. Oh, wasn't it said that only women were alchemy grandmasters? What's this man doing here? Yu Xiong looked at Yang Kai curiously. The monster race woman replied, these two seem to be senior sister and junior brother from the same sect. So it's just a little boy toy. Yu Xiong sneered, uncle despises this kind of person the most. He subconsciously regarded Yang Kai as someone who relied on Xia Ning Chang to live off a woman. Yang Kai did not care about his evaluation and continued to stare at the enchanting woman with a playful smile on his face, seemingly unable to bear Yang Kai's aggressive and unflinching gaze. The enchanting woman glared at him fiercely, a look of rebuke flashing across her beautiful eyes. In front of so many people, bold humans, why haven't you saluted the master? From the monster race crowd on both sides, angry shouts suddenly rang out. Red Moon territory had dispatched so many people and even had two esteemed masters personally greet them, which was more than enough to give the alchemy grandmaster face. It was only reasonable that these two humans should not stand here foolishly and should at least show some humility. But they actually stood there without moving. They really thought too highly of themselves. Without the appreciation of a master tribal lord, what were these humans worth? They were nothing more than accessories to the monster race. What was even more intolerable to the monster race crowd was that this little boy toy had been staring at their master since he entered the hall, not even blinking once, as if he wanted to swallow this master alive. How rude. Even if this master's charm was boundless, a trivial human should not act so presumptuously. How could this master be blasphemed by a mere human? Many monster race masters glared at Yang Kai at this moment. You little boy toy, where are you looking at? Yu Xiong also noticed that something was wrong and quickly got up, glared at Yang Kai, and said fiercely, do you believe uncle won't dig out your eyes? Human, there are some people you can't look at, just relax and act as a little boy toy. A monster race master nearby sneered. This human was too insatiable. Although the face of the woman beside him could not be seen clearly, just by looking at her figure and skin color, one could tell that she was definitely a rare beauty. It was fine that he was not satisfied, but he actually dared to cast covetous eyes on that lord. He really did not know what was good for him. This human girl must be blind. How could she be with such a man? Such an excellent alchemy grandmaster could only be matched by the elite disciples of the monster race. Chapter 1576. Human, Master Yu Xiong's temper is not very good. If you want to live, quickly admit your wrongs, apologize, and kowtow. You may be able to keep your life. A monster race man shouted, seemingly wanting to instruct Yang Kai on how to behave. After all, the charm of the master above was obvious to all, so it wasn't entirely his fault that this human race man had lost his composure like this. Admit my wrongs, apologize, kowtow. Yang Kai stroked his chin, looking like he didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, but his eyes were still fixed on the enchanting woman as a playful smile appeared on his face. Beauty, are you sure you want me to do this? As soon as these words came out, everyone present was shocked. Everyone's eyes turned towards Yang Kai, revealing looks of disbelief. This human actually called the master a beauty. This was not just rude, but blatant flirting. Although the master was originally a human, for some special reason, she had been adopted as the adopted daughter of tribal Lord Master. Over the years, she had been carefully trained and cultivated, and her talents were well known throughout the world. Even the elites of the monster race had to act humbly and respectfully when they saw her. A human raceman, in front of everyone's eyes, actually dared to flirt with the master so blatantly. Had he never died before? Bold. A monster race master shouted, his face filled with anger. Flirting with the master was tantamount to insulting the monster race and Red Moon tribal lord. No monster race master could tolerate Yang Kai's impudence, so for a time, everyone in the hall was filled with anger and murderous intent. Yu Xiong froze for a moment, seemingly unable to recover from his shock, but after a while, he burst into laughter. Pointing to Yang Kai, he turned to the enchanting woman and said, "Little sister, this little gigolo actually called you a beauty. Am I not?" The enchanting woman glanced at Yu Xiong lightly, her phoenix eyes narrowing slightly. Yu Xiong's laughter immediately got stuck in his throat as he shrank back and hurriedly said, "Of course, that's not what elder brother meant, it's just that I've never heard anyone call you that before, so I was surprised. Ian, this little gigolo is too shameless. Do you want elder brother to teach him a lesson?" As he spoke, he glared at Yang Kai. In the Red Moon territory, Yu Xiong could be said to be under only one person. As the adopted son of the Red Moon tribal lord, his strength and status were not something an ordinary monster clan member could compare with. His temper was upright and unyielding, and he was not afraid of anything. There were only two people who could make him submit. One was naturally the Red Moon tribal lord. The other was the coquettish woman sitting to his right. If one were to say that he was in awe of the Red Moon tribal lord, in that case, he admired his little sister. He admired her aptitude and cultivation speed, which was something he would never be able to reach. His foster mother had once said that, in Red Moon territory, his little sister was the most promising existence to break through to the Origin King realm besides he. In this aspect, he was no match for him. No need. The enchanting woman refused Yu Xiong's proposal. "You're letting him go just like that? That would be letting him off too lightly. He must pay the price for his frivolity." Yu Xiong shook his head, somewhat unhappy. The coquettish woman smiled lightly, got up from her chair, and walked down, chuckling lightly as she said, "Let him off? Naturally, there's no such thing as letting such a shameless guy off so casually. I'll teach him a lesson myself." That's fine too." Yu Xiong nodded before turning a gloating look towards Yang Kai, grinning as he said, "Little gigolo, you're finished. If this uncle were to take action, I could give you a quick death, but if little sister were to take action, heh. When the monster race masters standing on either side heard that this master was going to teach this little gigolo a lesson herself, they immediately cheered up and secretly looked forward to the show. But then again, to be able to be taught a lesson by this master herself, this little gigolo was truly blessed. Many monster race masters showed looks of envy. A moment later, the coquettish woman arrived in front of Yang Kai, her smooth white chin still slightly raised, giving her a noble and inviolable look, revealing her white slender neck, a dazzling sight to behold. Yang Kai showed no fear and simply stared back at her with a smile. The woman grit her teeth and slowly stretched out her hand, her jade finger poking towards Yang Kai's chest. Yu Xiong watched on happily, looking forward to what kind of inhumane and heinous method his little sister would use to torture this shameless guy. Many monster race masters also stretched their necks forward, a look of satisfaction on their faces, pointing her jade finger at Yang Kai's chest. The coquettish woman grit her teeth and said, "Tell me, should I dig out your heart, pull out your liver, or directly cut open your stomach and see if there's black or white inside? Do you hate me that much?" Yang Kai rubbed his nose. "Yes." The coquettish woman raised her chin a little more. "I hate you to the bone, I wish I could tear you into 10,000 pieces. I wish I could grind your bones to dust. Ha. Yang Kai chuckled dryly. As the coquettish woman spoke, her jade finger gently poked Yang Kai's chest as she ground her teeth, as if there was some kind of deep hatred between her and Yang Kai. Yu Xiong's face flashed with excitement as he secretly paid attention to Yang Kai's reaction. His little sister didn't seem to be using any overly harsh means, but with her ability, it should be easy for her to cause this little gigolo some internal injuries. Yu Xiong wondered if this little gigolo's 5 viscera and 6 organs would turn into a pool of pus after being poked a few times by his little sister. But why did his little sister's tone sound so sad? Yu Xiong scratched his head, puzzled. Don't make trouble. Yang Kai showed a helpless look as he grabbed the coquettish woman's little hand. The other party tried to pull back but was unable to do so. The group of monster race masters were immediately filled with righteous indignation, their eyes spitting fire. Audacious. This little brat not only dared to flirt with their master, but now even dared to take advantage of her. How could they tolerate this? Just as they were about to rush out and teach Yang Kai a good lesson, they saw a shy look appear on the master's face, her white cheeks blushing slightly, even her neck becoming pink. Her raised chin lowered at some point and her proud temperament became gentle and pleasant at this moment. What was going on? Why did the master have such a reaction? The group of monster race masters were dumbfounded. You bastard! The coquettish woman cursed softly, a look of grievance appearing on her beautiful eyes. Didn't I tell you I was on Monster Star? Why didn't you come to see me until now? I couldn't help it. Sailing through Monster Star's territory is not a place where I can come and go as I please. Yang Kai explained helplessly. Being able to come here this time was really a stroke of luck. Aren't I here now? Qing Luo, don't be angry, you're making a fool of yourself. They've been making a fool of themselves for a long time. Shan Qing Luo glared at Yang Kai. Did you want the situation to become like this? Are you satisfied now? Haha. Yang Kai grinned. In fact, I didn't expect you to be the one to receive me and little senior sister. You've wronged me. If that's the case, then I won't argue with you. Shan Qing Luo snorted lightly. While the two of them were whispering sweet nothings to each other, the many monster race masters in the hall all stared blankly. By now, how could they not know that their master and this little gigolo seemed to have known each other for a long time and had a very close relationship? Otherwise, how could they be flirting like this? This was almost unacceptable to them. Yu Xiong was also dumbfounded, his eyes almost popping out of their sockets. He had never seen his little sister treat any man so kindly, and when his little sister was talking to this little gigolo, she actually showed a look of satisfaction and happiness. Yu Xiong had seen his little sister appear lonely more than once when she was alone, but now, her satisfaction formed a sharp contrast with her previous loneliness. Your status here seems to be very high, Yang Kai asked softly. To be honest, seeing Shan Qing Luo sitting high up in the hall here really surprised him. Although he had long known that Shan Qing Luo had been adopted by Red Moon Tribal Lord as an adopted daughter, after all, they were from different races. Yang Kai had thought that Shan Qing Luo was living a very difficult life here, but now that he saw her, he realized he was wrong. Adoptive mother values me very much, so those monster race masters don't dare disrespect me, Shan Qing Luo replied softly. Who is that guy? He seems to have the same status as you. Yang Kai looked up at Yu Xiong. Like me, he was taken in by adoptive mother and is nominally my eldest brother, but he is a genuine monster race master. Shan Qing Luo explained softly, and after she finished speaking, she found that the trace of hostility in Yang Kai's eyes suddenly disappeared. This discovery made her heart leap with joy. Shan Qing Luo knew better than anyone what it meant for a man to be jealous of a woman. Elder brother-in-law, hello. Yang Kai suddenly raised his head and smiled at Yu Xiong, greeting him loudly. Yu Xiong's eyes instantly fell to the ground. If Yu Xiong had some speculations when he saw his little sister act so intimately with this gigolo just now, Yang Kai's greeting confirmed his suspicions. His little sister and this gigolo actually had that kind of relationship. How is that possible? Yu Xiong looked at Shan Qing Luo in disbelief but was surprised to find that his little sister did not try to deny it and was instead smiling shyly. Yu Xiong seemed to have heard some kind of shattering sound and could not help glancing around at the other monster race masters in the hall, only to find that all of them wore looks of grief and indignation, as if their hearts were being twisted by knives as they stared at Yang Kai with fiery eyes, as if they wished to turn their gazes into sharp arrows and kill this gigolo on the spot. Ah! Yu Xiong's mind was a little confused and he did not know what to say to Yang Kai. Suddenly, he glanced at Xia Ningqiang, who had been standing quietly next to Yang Kai, and asked, "What is the relationship between you and this girl?" "Little senior sister is my woman." Yang Kai smiled, reaching out and hugging Xia Ningqiang's waist while pulling Shanqing Luo into his embrace with his other hand. Shanqing Luo struggled slightly but still complied with Yang Kai's wishes, snuggling into Yang Kai's arms with a blush. Yu Xiong's jaw dropped as he stared dumbfoundedly at this human gigolo with a brilliant smile on his face, a feeling of admiration welling up in his heart as he gave him a big thumbs up. This is a true winner in life. A perfect example of a gigolo. Chapter 1577. Yang Kai and Xia Ningqiang settled down peacefully in the palace. After the farce in the hall, everyone knew about the close relationship between Yang Kai and Shanqing Luo. This caused many monster race masters to feel envious and jealous while cursing Yang Kai's luck with women. Inside the guest room, Shanqing Luo brought Biluo to visit Yang Kai's senior sister and junior brother. Just now, there had been too many people around, so she hadn't had much to say, but now that she had the opportunity, she naturally wanted to pour her heart out. Although Yang Kai had learned many things from Biluo in the Emperor Garden, Yang Kai didn't understand the details very well. After talking with Shanqing Luo, he learned that the Dragon Lady had indeed suffered a lot after arriving on Monster Star. She was already a beautiful woman with a natural charm, and when she arrived on Monster Star, her strength wasn't high, so it was natural that she was targeted by many men with ulterior motives. If she hadn't met Red Moon Tribal Lord, who had recognized her talent and accepted her as a foster daughter, Shanqing Luo wouldn't have believed what kind of fate she would have today. Therefore, to a certain extent, she was very grateful to Red Moon Tribal Lord. Furthermore, ever since he had taken her in as his adopted daughter, the Red Moon Territory Lord had placed even more importance on her. This could be seen from her position in the Red Moon Territory. Those who did not know the truth would most likely think that she was a pure demon. A human being able to hold such a high position in Red Moon Territory was inseparable from the cultivation of Red Moon Tribal Lord. After listening to Shanqing Luo's story, Yang Kai also felt a deep respect for Red Moon Tribal Lord, whom he had never met before. In short, foster mother is very good to me. Moreover, because I refined the heavenly moon demon spider's source, I am no longer a complete human being. However, I also can't be considered a monster race cultivator, Shanqing Luo chuckled. Then what are you? Yang Kai asked in surprise. A half-monster. There is a group of special existences on Monster Star, but their status is really low, only a little higher than humans. Half-monster. Yang Kai was stunned. Yes, these half-monsters were born from the union of the human race and the monster race. They are not recognized by humans, and not accepted by the monster race, so their status is quite awkward, Shanqing Luo explained casually. The union of the human race and monster race? Monster Star allows this kind of thing to happen? Of course it is not allowed. Monster Emperor Star was different from other cultivation stars. Here, Monster Race is supreme. How can they tolerate their bloodline being's bloodline? So, a half-monster is a special half-monster half-monsters a half-monster. That's why this special group of half-monsters was born. Shanqing Luo slowly said, to tell the truth, this is the first time I've seen such a group of half-monsters. I really admire these people. For example, that senior BA he who came here with you, he has experienced such things. You know about BA he? Yang Kai's eyes lit up. I didn't know at first. I only heard Yu Xiong mention some things before. Tell me about it. I'm also very curious about that old man, Yang Kai quickly asked. He had heard a lot of rumors about BA he when he was in Shimmering Moon City. This old man's strength was indeed extraordinary, so naturally, Yang Kai was interested in him. Shan Qing Luo didn't know much about him, but the reason why he had concealed himself in shimmering Moon City for 200 years, even changing his appearance and concealing his cultivation, was related to a human woman. This old man was the #1 general under Kai Yu's tribal lord several hundred years ago. His aptitude was top-notch, and he had cultivated to the third-order origin returning realm long ago. In terms of sure, no origin returning realm master could compare to him. For a time, he was known as the #1 master under the Origin King realm on Monster Star. He was also the most promising existence on Monster Star to break through to the Origin King realm. Once he achieved this, it meant that he could stand on equal footing with Kai Yu and become a powerful tribal lord-level existence. However, when he was at his peak, he fell in love with a human woman at first sight and fell in love with her again. The monster race had always rejected the union of humans and monsters, let alone a future rising star like he. The resistance he encountered was naturally greater than anyone else, especially from Kai Yu's tribal lord, which made he even more miserable. If things continued to develop like this, with his arrogant temperament, it was very likely that he would betray the monster race. At that time, he would definitely become a character hated by everyone on Monster Star. Kai Yu's tribal lord also had a headache. She naturally didn't want to see her most capable general being forced into such a desperate situation. Out of her love for talent, she was even prepared to accept this fact and allow he to marry that human woman. After all, although the monster race and human race couldn't openly unite, some monster race masters liked to play with human beauties. This was a very normal thing. Which monster race master didn't have a few human beauties as playthings in their mansion? It was just that everyone had a tacit understanding not to make this matter public. As long as he could break through to the Origin King realm, what did it matter if he married a human woman? But before she could make this clear to a melodramatic event occurred. The human woman actually became the demon race at a critical juncture when breaking through a minor realm and died suddenly. After learning this news, he was completely disheartened and furious. He subconsciously believed that the reason why his beloved woman became the demon race was definitely related to Kai Yu's tribal lord. Perhaps the tribal lordmaster had done something in secret. As such, he made a scene on Half Moon Mountain and went to Kai Yu's palace to confront her face to face. No one knew what happened in her palace, but when Kai Yu's master came out, she announced that he was ungrateful and had committed treason, so she personally killed him. Since then, there had been no news of he for 200 years. Until this time, when he took the initiative to appear in shimmering Moon City. So, Kai Yu's tribal lord didn't kill he back then and instead let him go? Yang Kai asked thoughtfully. That should be the case. Shan Qing Luo nodded lightly. Adoptive mother is a second-order origin king. If she really wanted to kill he would have died without a doubt. It would have been impossible for him to survive. Yang Kai nodded gently. Yang Kai. Shan Qing Luo suddenly called out softly. Achem. Do you think that human woman becoming the demon race and dying suddenly had something to do with adoptive mother? How would I know? What happened more than 200 years ago? I'm afraid no one knows except for the people involved. Yang Kai smiled slightly, but suddenly saw the worried look on Shan Qing Luo's face and asked in a low voice, "What are you worried about?" Shan Qing Luo slowly shook her head and squeezed out a smile. "It's nothing. By the way, you have to be careful of that Tian. I heard that you had a conflict with him in shimmering Moon City. Tian is a proud and arrogant guy, so if you offend him, he will never let you go." "Don't worry, he can't do anything to me," Yang Kai smiled proudly. The two talked for a while before Shan Qing Luo got up and left. "Junior brother, what should we do next?" After Shan Qing Luo left, Xia Ning Chang asked softly. "I haven't thought about it yet." Yang Kai grinned. Yang Kai grinned. He had tried to enter the palace mainly because he wanted to see how Shan Qing Luo was doing. Now that he saw that she was doing well and her status was high, he naturally felt relieved. "Then do you want to take elder sister Qing Luo away?" Xia Ning Chang asked again. "I didn't think so, but based on what she said, I think it's better for her to stay here. After all, This is Monster Star, which is extremely beneficial to her cultivation and future development. Xia Ning Chang gently nodded. After listening to his story, she immediately understood that if Yang Kai really insisted on taking Shanqing Luo away, it would be very difficult. No one knew whether the death of the human woman who fell in love with he had anything to do with Red Moon Tribal Lord, but if it really was Red Moon Tribal Lord's doing, Xia Ningchang understood why Shanqing Luo showed a worried look just now. She was clearly afraid that Yang Kai would follow in the footsteps of that human woman. For the sake of her adopted daughter's future, Red Moon Tribal Lord would not mind the death of a human man. But since we're here, we should naturally search for a batch of unique materials here first. Yang Kai looked at Xia Ningchang with a smile. Little senior sister, I'm afraid I'll have to rely on your strength for this. After leaving the guest room, Shanqing Luo took Biluo straight to Kai Yu's palace. She was highly regarded by Kai Yu and was being cultivated as a future successor, so naturally no one dared to stop her from walking around the palace. All the monster race cultivator who saw her bowed respectfully to show their respect. Arriving outside the palace, Shanqing Luo happened to see a bare-waisted, tiger-backed man standing outside the palace, his brow furrowed and his body slightly tilted, as if he was listening to something. Yu Xiong. Shanqing Luo walked up and shouted. Hearing this call, Yu Xiong quickly turned around and put a finger to his lips, shushing her. Sneaking around in front of adoptive mother's palace. What are you doing? Be careful, adoptive mother doesn't know you'll be punished. Shanqing Luo frowned and reprimanded him. Senior he is being tortured inside, listen. Yu Xiong pointed inside with a gossipy expression on his face. Shanqing Luo was surprised and listened carefully. Sure enough, she heard tragic screams coming from inside the palace. Her face couldn't help turning pale as she asked in shock, does adoptive mother refuse to forgive senior he? Although she had never met his situation was somewhat similar to hers. If Red Moon Tribal Lord refused to let go of he, then the future of her and Yang Kai would be bleak. His ending, to a certain extent, was a good example for her to learn from, so when she heard his screams while being tortured inside, Shanqing Luo became nervous. She seemed to be able to see Yang Kai being tortured in front of her adoptive mother. I don't know, adoptive mother has always been pleasant and rarely gets angry. She only instructs us rather than reprimands us, never punishes us. Seeing senior he being tortured so miserably this time, it seems adoptive mother is really angry. Yu Xiong smacked his lips as his ears perked up, listening even more intently. Shanqing Luo's expression changed as she became even more worried, secretly wondering what she should say when she saw adoptive mother. Chapter 1578. Shanqing Luo and Yu Xiong listened outside the palace for more than an hour before the screams inside gradually subsided. Even a monster race master like Yu Xiong could not help feeling a little apprehensive upon seeing this. The door of the palace opened with a bang and a figure staggered out. This person was covered in blood and his aura was extremely weak, as if he was not far from death. Shanqing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly. She could tell at a glance that this master should be he. After all, he was exuding a powerful third-order origin returning realm aura. It seemed that adoptive mother was really angry this time, and it was hard to tell if she had forgiven senior he or not. Senior, you're all right. Yu Xiong walked over and helped he up. Cough cough. I'm fine, I won't die for the time being. He waved his hand slowly, as if he didn't even have the strength to speak. Yu Xiong opened his mouth but didn't know how to comfort him. He suddenly raised his head and looked towards Shanqing Luo. Even though this old man was extremely knowledgeable and had seen countless people, the moment he saw Shanqing Luo, his eyes couldn't help lighting up and his originally weak aura seemed to recover somewhat. Gently nodding, he said, this should be Sister Shan? Qing Luo greets senior. Shanqing Luo bowed gracefully. Sister Shan is too polite. Good, the monster race has finally produced some decent talents. He smiled. This old master acted willfully back then and failed to live up to the expectations of Tribal Lord Master. I hope you won't disappoint her again. I will follow senior's teachings. Shanqing Luo whispered with a complicated expression. Go in, master is waiting for you. He waved his hand, supported his weak body, and walked out step by step, leaving behind a trail of blood in his wake. Shan Qing Luo and Yu Xiong stared at his receding figure and couldn't help sighing. The future star of the monster race, the strongest master below the origin king realm, was now being punished like this by adoptive mother. Is that Qing Luo? Come in, inside the palace. Kai Yu's voice called out. Shan Qing Luo felt guilty for no reason. Biting her red lips, she braced herself and walked inside. I'll go back first, Yu Xiong muttered to himself before turning around to flee. Yu Xiong, get in here too. Kai Yu's tender voice called out. Yu Xiong's scalp went numb. His raised foot immediately fell back down. He turned around. With an expression as if her parents had died, she reluctantly followed behind Shan Qing Luo. He should have withdrawn long ago. Yu Xiong's intestines turned green with regret. In the spacious and bright bedroom, a beautiful woman dressed in palace attire stood there quietly. His expression was as calm as an ancient well. The beautiful woman had a voluptuous figure. Her breasts were tall and straight, and her waist was slender and beautiful. There wasn't the slightest bit of energy fluctuation coming from her body. She looked like an ordinary person who had never cultivated before. She was extremely beautiful, her red lips like the most beautiful rubies, flashing an alluring luster, her skin white as snow, and her 10 slender white fingers. In terms of attractiveness to men, she was not inferior to Shan Qing Luo at all, only lacking the natural charm of Shan Qing Luo. However, the noble aura exuding from her tender body was many times higher than that of Shan Qing Luo. It was hard to imagine that such a beautiful woman was one of the 10 tribal lords of Monster Star and the adoptive mother of Shan Qing Luo and Yu Xiong, Kai Yu. After the brother and sister pair came in, they first greeted Kai Yu, and after receiving a response from her, they sat down carefully. Has the alchemy grandmaster from Shimmering Moon City been properly arranged? Kai Yu asked casually. Reporting to adoptive mother, everything has been arranged. Does adoptive mother wish to see him? Shan Qing Luo looked at Kai Yu. There's no hurry. Since this person was able to refine an origin-grade pill with pill clouds, she was indeed extraordinary, but compared to her, I was more interested in the human raceman who came with her. Qing Luo, do you have anything to tell me? I vaguely heard some incredible rumors. Kai Yu sat down in her seat and turned her beautiful eyes towards Shan Qing Luo. Shan Qing Luo's tender body trembled and she quickly got up, knelt on the ground, and said through gritted teeth, Adoptive mother, please forgive me, that man. Why are you so nervous? Adoptive mother won't eat him, stand up and speak. Kai Yu stretched out her hand and lifted Shan Qing Luo up. Seeing that Kai Yu didn't seem to be angry, Shan Qing Luo couldn't help feeling relieved and her nervous mood gradually calmed down. Tell me, is the rumor I heard true or false? Kai Yu continued to ask. It's true, Shan Qing Luo replied through gritted teeth. Oh. In that case, is that human really the one you like? Kai Yu laughed softly. Yes. Is he that great? Why would even a woman like you fall for him? Yu Xiong said he's just a little boy who relies on women to eat. No, Yu Xiong is talking nonsense. Shan Qing Luo glared at Yu Xiong fiercely, causing the latter to shrink his head back and scratch his chin while looking up at the sky. Tell me, what is so great about him that you can't forget him? Kai Yu seemed to be interested and asked carefully. Daughter doesn't know. Shan Qing Luo smiled shyly. In front of a powerful existence like Kai Yu, her queenly aura was completely suppressed. We met when he was very weak. At that time, daughter was an immortal ascension boundary 9th stage cultivator while he was just an Yuan Qi boundary cultivator. The gap is quite big. Kai Yu raised her brow, but he seems to have reached the second order origin returning realm now. Does that mean his cultivation speed is on par with yours? Understanding this, Kai Yu finally showed a look of shock. The speed at which Shan Qing Luo was breaking through was something she had witnessed with her own eyes. That human boy was actually not inferior to her adopted daughter was something she couldn't help feeling slightly shocked. I don't know where he has been all these years or what he has been doing. Last time, I accidentally met him in the Emperor Garden, but this time, he came to Monster Star specifically to find me. He went to the Emperor Garden? Kaiyu became even more interested. At that time, daughter joined forces with him to fight a group of people from Hengluo Chamber of Commerce, but before we had time to talk, the Emperor Garden closed. HMPH, Hengluo Chamber of Commerce. Kaiyu coldly snorted, a trace of disdain appearing on her pretty face. Since you joined forces with him, tell me, how strong is he? This. Shanqing Luo showed an awkward look. You don't know? Kaiyu's face sank. Adoptive mother, please forgive me. The battle was not long at that time, so daughter was not able to observe carefully, but daughter is certain that he is not weak. Kaiyu smiled softly and slowly said, since you are so sure, I can give him a chance. Although his courage to come to Monster Star for you is admirable, in the end, he is still just a human, and he seems to have another woman. How can Kaiyu's daughter share a man with another woman? Put away your feelings for now. I will personally observe what he is like. If he really has the ability to make me approve of him, I will not oppose your relationship. However, if he is only a superficial person, I will personally kill him. After saying so, Kaiyu looked towards Shanqing Luo, thinking that she would panic and beg for mercy, but instead, she saw a look of joy on Shanqing Luo's face. Do you have so much confidence in him? Kaiyu was surprised. Although I haven't seen him for several dozen years, he was a man who was good at creating miracles. Daughter believes that he will not let me or adoptive mother down, Shanqing Luo quickly said. Good, since you say so, I can rest assured. Kaiyu nodded gently, very satisfied with Shanqing Luo's attitude and shouted, Yu Xiong. Yes, daughter. Yu Xiong quickly got up. I'll leave this matter to you. Test the depths of that little bastard for me. If he's just an ordinary human, kill him as soon as possible, lest he becomes an eyesore. Kaiyu waved her hand. Yes. Yu Xiong's eyes flashed a fierce light as he replied in a deep voice. You may leave. The brother and sister pair left Kaiyu's palace, Yu Xiong looking excited as he rubbed his hands together, ready to go all out. Although he felt that young Kai was a very interesting guy, even daring to call him his brother-in-law, in the end, he was still a human being. On the premise that he already had another woman, yet he still coveted his little sister. It was no different from a toad wanting to eat swan meat. Now that he had received Kaiyu's instructions, of course, he had to carefully evaluate young Kai. No matter what, he had to beat the crap out of him first. Yu Xiong. Shanqing Luo shouted. What's the matter? Yu Xiong quickly looked up at her. Shanqing Luo's beautiful eyes flashed with a cold light as she glared at him and said, if you dare take action against him personally, I'll teach you a lesson. Hey! Yu Xiong was dumbfounded and said with a sullen expression, little sister, big brother is only acting on behalf of adoptive mother. I don't care, in any case, you can't do it yourself, otherwise, you won't have a little sister like me in the future. After saying so, she didn't give Yu Xiong a chance to speak and simply left. Little sister, great aunt, great aunt. Yu Xiong called out from behind, but no matter how he shouted, he didn't get any response. He suddenly felt that this was a very difficult task. After living in the palace for 3 days, Kaiyu finally summoned Xia Ningchang. As an alchemy grandmaster who could refine pill clouds, Xia Ningchang was qualified to do so. As for young Kai, Kaiyu didn't pay him any mind and naturally had no intention of meeting him. Kaiyu had a very good impression of Xia Ningchang. This human woman was docile and kind, with clear and pure eyes. Not only was her cultivation high, but her attainments in alchemy were also extremely profound. When she summoned Xia Ningchang, Kaiyu specifically asked several famous alchemists in the palace to accompany her in order to test Xia Ningchang's skills. The result was to her satisfaction. In terms of understanding of alchemy, Xia Ningchang already had the demeanor of a grandmaster, not inferior in the slightest to the white-haired old men who had devoted their lives to alchemy. The alchemy competition held on the spot was also won by Xia Ningchang with an absolute advantage. Kaiyu was overjoyed to obtain such a talent and immediately offered extremely generous conditions, allowing Xia Ningchang to live in the palace with peace of mind and perform alchemy for her. If it weren't for Xia Ningchang's inexperience and age, the position of chief alchemist in the palace would likely have changed hands. Chapter 1579. Xia Ningchang was now placed in an important position. Not only did she have her own loft, but she also had several young and beautiful maids to take care of her daily needs. All she needed to do was focus on alchemy for Kai Yu. Everything was going according to Yang Kai's expectations. Sister Xia, these materials were allocated to you by Master Tribal Lord. Master hopes to see the finished pill in 1 month. Inside the loft, a maid in green handed a space ring to Xia Ningchang. Give it to me. Yang Kai smiled and took the space ring. The maid in green frowned slightly, seemingly a little unwilling, but she didn't refuse and gently placed the space ring in Yang Kai's hand. Yang Kai swept the ring with his divine sense and chuckled. Why are there so few materials? Is this still too little? This is already 40 origin grade pills worth of materials. The maid in green frowned. Yen, it's a bit too little. Can you get me more materials? Yang Kai asked. I can, but the other grandmasters in the palace only have so many shares each month. If you ask for more, they won't have time to refine. How can those people compare to my little senior sister? Yang Kai spat disdainfully. Go get more materials, the more the better. The maid in green suddenly looked at Xia Ningchang awkwardly. To be honest, she didn't like Yang Kai very much. Rumors that Yang Kai was a gigolo who only relied on women to make a living had already spread throughout the palace. No woman would have a good impression of such a man. He already had an alchemy grandmaster as his woman, but he still wasn't satisfied and actually extended his evil claws to Master Shan Qing Luo. Sadly, Master Shan Qing Luo's wise and bright eyes were obscured by something and she couldn't see through this shameless bastard, unable to see the filthy soul hidden under his facade. Inside the palace, almost everyone was sighing for Shan Qing Luo, feeling that such a beautiful flower was willing to be stuck in a pile of cow dung, making them feel sad and indignant. Now that Yang Kai's tone was so arrogant, the maid in green, who already had a bad impression of him, felt even more disgusted. However, the Master Tribal Lord seemed to intend to put this new alchemy grandmaster in an important position, so she couldn't refuse. She just wanted to ask for Xia Ningchang's opinion. As junior brother says, Xia Ningchang said softly. If her lordship asks about it, just say that I want it. She won't disagree. Yes. The maid in green nodded helplessly. By the way, the grandmasters in the palace. What is the general probability of refining a pill? Yang Kai asked again. 20%. The maid in green replied indifferently. 10 sets of materials. 2 successful refinement. Understood, many thanks for telling me. Yang Kai smiled and cupped his fists. The maid in green looked at him seriously, as if she wanted to say something. But after hesitating for a while, she couldn't bring herself to say it and just said goodbye to Xia Ningchang before turning around and leaving. This girl seems to hate me. Yang Kai looked at her back and chuckled. He naturally knew why the other party showed such a look of extreme disgust, but he didn't take it to heart. Junior brother, isn't it a bit inappropriate for us to do this? Xia Ningchang looked at Yang Kai worriedly. What's wrong? After all, these are origin-grade materials, their value is not low. If we do this, it's tantamount to swindling materials from Red Moon Tribal Lord. Xia Ningchang felt a little uneasy and guilty. That's not right. Yang Kai shook his head. Little senior sister, think about it. That girl just said that when the other grandmasters in the palace refine origin-grade pills, their success rate is about 20%. In other words, 80% of the materials will be wasted. But little senior sister is different. If you try your best to refine pills, even if you don't have a 100% success rate, you will still succeed. Even if you fail occasionally, it doesn't matter. When the time comes, you only need to convert those materials into 30% pills. For Red Moon Tribal Lord, she will have already made a big profit. We will only be reaping some benefits from it. This is something that benefits everyone. Although what you said is correct, I still feel it's not right. Xia Ningchang pursed her red lips lightly. Although she felt that she and her junior brother were like thieves in her heart, since Yang Kai wanted her to do this, Xia Ningchang would not refuse. The two of them soon devoted themselves to the great cause of alchemy. The process of alchemy for Xia Ningchang was similar to cultivation. For her, alchemy was a kind of enjoyment, not hard work. Moreover, she was now a first-order origin returning realm cultivator. After studying the true alchemy enlightenment scripture, her attainments in alchemy were no small matter. In addition, the last time she successfully refined a spirit pill that formed pill clouds in shimmering Moon City, her harvest was huge and her comprehension of alchemy was quite profound. Now, even Yang Kai admired her understanding of alchemy. One set of materials after another was converted into finished pills in her hands, her efficiency extremely high. Yang Kai was not idle either. He was experimenting with the true alchemy enlightenment scripture's final pill refining technique. If he succeeded, he would be able to produce more spirit pills from each set of materials, not just one. One could imagine how great of an impact it would have on the alchemy territory if his experiment was successful. This was definitely a groundbreaking development. Unfortunately, Yang Kai didn't have a clue for the time being, so he could only refine spirit pills while studying the true alchemy enlightenment scripture. The senior sister and junior sister worked together and the trivial 40 sets of alchemy materials were all squandered in just a few days. A few days later, when the green-clothed maidservant came again and received a bottle of 12 spirit pills, she was so shocked that her eyes almost popped out of their sockets. It had only been a few days, yet this young and beautiful alchemy grandmaster had really finished refining all the materials. Moreover, the number of finished pills was 10% higher than the other grandmasters in the palace. The maidservant could hardly believe her eyes. If it weren't for the fact that these spirit pills matched the materials delivered before, she would almost suspect that Xia Ningchang had used the spirit pills she had refined before to make up the numbers. No wonder the tribal master valued her so much. It turned out that she really had the ability. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that Yang Kai was an eyesore. This little gigolo really had a thick skin. All day long, he did nothing but stay by this girl's side, never leaving her side, as if he was afraid someone would snatch her away. However, one couldn't blame him for doing this. He didn't have much ability and could only rely on women to make a living, so of course he had to keep a close eye on her. For such an outstanding woman like Grandmaster Xia, there were likely countless suitors. Grandmaster Xia, these are the materials for 100 sets of origin-grade pills. The tribal master said that if you want more materials, you only need to tell this maidservant and the palace will unconditionally provide you with sufficient materials. The maidservant in green respectfully handed over more materials. Many thanks. Xia Ningchang smiled lightly. Just put them there, Yang Kai gestured lightly. The maidservant in green glared at him fiercely before putting down the materials in her hands. After thinking for a while, she suddenly shouted, "I'll trouble you to treat Grandmaster Xia better, you shameless man." After saying so, she left in a huff. Yang Kai was puzzled and frowned. Why did she scold me? I didn't provoke her. Xia Ningchang chuckled and comforted. Don't worry, others may not know junior brother's excellence, but I know. Yang Kai's heart warmed. Xia Ningchang lowered her head and whispered, "Actually, this is good. I was really afraid that more women would know how excellent you are. Since little senior sister says so, then I'll be at ease as your little gigolo." Yang Kai laughed. Xia Ningchang's face blushed slightly. The word gigolo always made her think of some bad things. Red Moon Territory was one of the top 3 territories on Monster Star, so it was naturally rich and produced a lot of precious treasures. What's more, this was Monster Star, where there were countless monster beasts, so the palace didn't lack the herbs and monster beast monster cores needed for alchemy. No matter how much Xia Ningchang wanted, the palace would be able to satisfy her. In order to get as many benefits as possible from this place, Yang Kai and Xia Ningchang's senior sister spared no effort in alchemy. They only refined 30% of all the materials and handed the refined pills to the green-clothed maidservant before taking new materials from her. The remaining 70% was pocketed by Yang Kai. This kind of opportunity to plunder alchemy materials was rare, so how could Yang Kai let it go? He didn't care about it himself. Now that he was an Origin King-grade alchemist, unless he used Origin King-grade materials to practice, he could effectively improve his alchemy skills. Otherwise, no matter how many pills he refined, it would only increase his proficiency. But Xia Ningchang was different. She needed a huge number of materials to perform alchemy and improve her cultivation. As the Star Master of Tongshen Realm, the little senior sister was eager to improve her cultivation so that she could bring vitality to her homeland. The materials obtained from the palace would become a stepping stone for Xia Ningchang's growth. Xia Ningchang's outstanding performance made Kai Yu very happy. Although there were several origin-grade alchemists in the palace, none of them could perform alchemy as efficiently and quickly as Xia Ningchang. It could be said that even if all the origin-grade alchemists in the palace were added together, they would still be inferior to Xia Ningchang. Kai Yu felt that if Xia Ningchang could serve in the palace for 10 years, it was very likely that Kai Yu would be able to create hundreds of origin-returning realm cultivators. This was not a joke. If there really was 10 years, the pills refined by Xia Ningchang and given to a talented monster race cultivator would definitely be effective in helping them grow. Kai Yu was more and more optimistic about Xia Ningchang, granting almost all of her requests without the slightest hesitation. This kind of indulgence made it even more convenient for young Kai to collect materials. Young Kai was already considering whether he should obtain some Origin King-grade materials from Kai Yu. There had never been an Origin King-grade alchemist on Monster Star before. This meant that there must be a large number of Origin King-grade herbs stored in the palace. Young Kai had already learned this from Shanqing Luo and knew that Kai Yu had a storehouse where many precious materials were stored, many of which were Origin King-grade. This made young Kai very excited. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.